मेरे को स्टार्ट करना है रिकॉर्डिंग लाइव नहीं ना. Very good morning everyone. How are you all? Everyone fine? Now, last class we just started Ind AS introduction. Of course, no doubt. There is no doubt. Any doubt? No doubt. Okay. Now, already I have discussed few points last day. Being the first class, actually what happened? Whenever you come to CA final, got this point? And for subject like accounting, which you are doing from class 11, n number of teachers came in your life for subject like accounting. Am I right or not? From class 11th, because subject remains same. Okay, the perspective changes. Of course, in class 11, 12, there was different viewpoint. Then foundation, some different approach came. Then CA inter totally change. Then CA final, it will be tremendous change. Got this point? So it is quite possible that you require some time to adapt as per my requirement. Got this point? Because already it is not a new subject for you. Suppose I am teaching a subject from the base to you, so adaptation is not required. But already the subject is known to you, and now we are extending the topic. So from my point of view, you need to adapt from as per my requirement, and I need to also know your emotions. I need to also know your emotions. Am I right or not? Because most of you have not done CA inter from me. You have not done CA inter from me. Am I right? If suppose you would have done CA inter from me, so you know what is my requirement, what is my teaching style. You can easily adapt in what CA final. But right now you have done CA inter. Basically, I am saying about accounting standard. So accounting standard you have done from some other faculty, and I don't know what was the level of that accounting standard. Similarly, you don't know what will be my level of teaching in CA final. So some time is required. Correct? You know me, I know you. It is for all the students, whether you are in face-to-face class, whether you are into live class, or whether you are into recorded mode. It is applicable for everyone. So initially I'll be thoda slow. Initially I'll be slow. Means up to I will say 10 class I'll be slow. And I'll be teaching only those accounting standard which you are familiar. I will not take any new accounting standard. Means accounting standard means in CA final Ind accounting standard. Correct now. So I'll be taking those accounting standard which you have already done in CA inter. For example, I will start with today. Actually, I will start with AS29. You remember AS29? Provision, contingent liabilities, contingent assets. That too you know. अरे बोलना रे. So I will be starting Ind AS 37. That is nothing but similar to AS29. Only 5% difference are there. 5% से भी कम. So if you know AS29 and I will be teaching you Ind AS 37, so can I say you can understand what is my approach? I can understand your level of knowledge, and dire I will increase the speed because I need to complete the syllabus also. Correct now. I can't extend the syllabus for n number of times, n number of hours. That I can't do. That I can't do. So there is a limited number of hours. If you would have given me 500 hours, तब मजा करके पढ़ाते. But that is not possible. That is not possible now. Can you give me 500 hours? Oh sir, jaldi padhao. Correct now. Got this point? So if suppose you would have given me 500 hours, then I have also time, you have also time. But that is not the case. So I have some limited number of hours. In that limited number of hours, number of hours. I need to complete the entire syllabus with two objectives, that you understand the subject from examination point of view. Can that become prime objective right now? Because I can't say that I will give you only knowledge but not from exam point of view, because knowledge is important, but as a student the first criteria is to pass the examination. Am I right or not? First we should become CA, then only we can apply knowledge now. If you are not chartered accountant, how can you apply the knowledge? The first objective is to clear exam, and the second objective is to understand the subject conceptually also, so that after becoming CA you can apply the knowledge whatever you have gained. I always say that knowledge is of no use if you can't apply that. If you are saying that you have understood, but if you can't apply that, then it has of no use. Correct? So if you become CA, then you should be able to apply that concept practically also. So that are two objectives. First, to explain you from examination point of view. So my entire approach will be totally from examination point of view. We need to score higher marks. Then with the second objective, that you should be thorough with the knowledge also. Means one commitment I always give to my student. I don't give any commitment that you will score this much of marks, because target we have set, that target you have set, I have not set. Whatever target we have set 90 plus, that was your target. Now you can reach to 90 plus because of your effort, not because of my effort. I am only a guide, I am only your mentor. You can score 90 plus, you can score 50 plus also, that depends upon your effort. But one commitment I just want to give, that if you have done classes with me, then at the end of the class you can challenge any chartered accountant regarding Ind AS concept. I said you can challenge any chartered accountant, not CA student. Means you can have a discussion with any CA even though you are not chartered accountant. That much knowledge I will give you. Means that much clarity you will have. Means with some point, means after some point of time, because of course some of you might be going office also. Correct now, you are doing audit also. Correct now. So of course whenever you do audit, lot of discussion happen. What will be the accounting treatment for that? In that discussion always you will excel. Means whatever you will say, that will be correct, and you can have a discussion on that point with your chartered accountant. So that much knowledge I will give, that much commitment I will give. Marks commitment is depends upon your effort, not because of my effort. Chalega? Yes sir. Now coming to introduction, whatever we have left, let us complete it as soon as possible. We have understood the roadmap for the application of Ind AS. Roadmap we have understood. So we have understood that Ind AS is applicable first to general companies. Two phase has been given, phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1 was starting from 1st April 2016 on mandatory basis. Voluntary they can adopt on from 1st April 2015. Then phase 2 start from 1st April 2017. I hope uh, what are the companies which were for that particular phase, that you have understood. Then we started for the companies which are banking companies, insurance companies and NBFC. For banking companies till now Ind AS is not applicable. Insurance company till now Ind AS is not applicable. Means the date has not been given, it has been deferred. But for NBFC the Ind AS is applicable. Ind AS is applicable. Now for NBFC also there are two phases. Phase 1 starting from 1st April 2018, phase 2 starting from 1st April 2019. I think the criteria remain same. Got this point? Then we were discussing about mutual fund. The mutual fund, SEBI has given one circular that for mutual fund Ind AS will be applicable from 1st April 2023. Then we started discussing about some points. So we have discussed what does the net worth mean. So net worth definition is as per Companies Act. As per Companies Act. So what is the definition given? What are the how to calculate net worth? It will be equal to paid up share capital, including both preference and equity share capital. Add all the reserve and surplus created out of profit except two reserve and surplus, revaluation reserve and capital reserve created during amalgamation chapter. Then add securities premium account less accumulated losses less deferred revenue expenditure or any miscellaneous expenditure which is not yet written off. So that is one item. If it is coming in the balance sheet, we should also deduct that. The residual amount will be known as net worth for the purpose of identifying for which company Ind AS is applicable. Then we discuss that net worth should be calculated based on the standalone financial statement which have been prepared as per existing accounting standard. This much we have done. Any doubt till now? No doubt. Now one thing we have understood that any company can voluntarily adopt Ind AS, but which company? General company. Means this voluntary adoption is not available for banking company, NBFC and insurance company. For them voluntary adoption is not applicable, but general company can adopt anytime Ind AS. Once they adopted, it become irrevocable. Means once adopted, they cannot again go back to what? Accounting standard. So company, what they have written? Once a company, however, they may voluntarily adopt Ind AS, and once a company voluntarily follow Ind AS, it is irrevocable. Correct. One thing we understood that any company for which Ind AS is not applicable, for them what will be applicable? Existing accounting standard will be applicable. That is understood point. Companies not covered by the roadmap shall continue to apply existing accounting standard. Correct. Now there are some exemption given to companies which are listed in SME stock exchange. What do you mean by SME? Small and medium stock exchange. Correct. Now, so what they are saying, companies whose shares are listed in, or in the process of listing in SME stock exchange. Do you know any SME stock exchange? Means there are two popular stock exchange. One is Bombay Stock Exchange, one is National Stock Exchange. They are not SME stock exchange. Do you know about any SME stock exchange? Correct. Now, in Hyderabad also few years before there was one stock exchange that was known as Hyderabad Stock Exchange. Now it has been shut down. Correct. Now means in Hyderabad also there was one stock exchange. You might not be knowing about that, but there was one stock exchange, Hyderabad Stock Exchange. Similarly, there is Ahmedabad Stock Exchange. There are what is small and medium stock exchange. Now what is the definition of SME stock exchange? That are not supposed to be done by me. Correct. Means if there is some SME stock exchange and your shares are listed only in that stock exchange, so you are a very small company, it means for them some relaxation has been given. If for them Ind AS is not applicable, however they can voluntarily adopt Ind AS if they are general companies. Got this point? They can voluntarily anytime adopt Ind AS. Correct. For example, I want to start my company. Just try to understand, if I say my company is listed company, so what impression I am creating? Is it a big company or small company? Big company. So therefore what I will do, even though I am a small company, even though I am a new company, I will try to list my shares in SME stock exchange. The listing fee will be very less. The listing fee will be very less in that. So I will try to list my shares of my company in that stock exchange only to inform the public that we are a listed company, to give an impression that we are a big company, but actually we are not a big company. So therefore the relaxation has been given that for that companies Ind AS is not applicable. Chalega. One more point we have already understood, that law will always prevail over Ind AS. Means if there is some differences between the law requirement as well as Ind AS requirement, will follow what? Law requirement. I'll just give you one basic example. Try to understand. Let me ask you one question. In Bachpan you have done one journal entry. Bachpan means in CA foundation. Our Bachpan started from CA foundation because I know what we have done in class 11 and 12. So basically we start accounting with a pure form in CA foundation only. Correct now. So what was the journal entry for allotment of equity shares? Means whenever shares are issued by company, what is the journal entry? Bank account debit to equity share capital, and if it is at premium, equity share capital to securities premium. Correct. Understood. Means how much amount you have received from shareholders. Suppose you receive 120. Correct. And suppose nominal value is what? 100, and 20 become what? Premium. Correct. Now what is the contribution from the owner? What is the contribution received from the owner? 100 ki 120? 120. So any contribution received from the owner should be transferred to which account? बोला any contribution received from the owner should be transferred to which account? बोला दिल में जो बोलता वो बोलो ना, capital account. So the question arises, why we have transferred some amount to securities premium? What happened in companies? Normally in partnership firm, And in sole proprietorship बचपन से we have started with sole proprietorship, then we started partnership firm, then we enter into company. Now the last stage of accounting means when we were basic accounting. So first we started proprietorship, then we started partnership firm, and at the end we have done what, companies. So the moment we come to company, your teacher says that anything received over and above nominal value will be transferred to securities premium. But in case of proprietorship, in case of partnership, so whatever contribution received in whatever form was transferred to which account? So what happened in company means this 120 is contribution from shareholders. Shareholders means what? Honor. So Y20 was transferred to securities premium. Securities premium is shown where? Under the head reserve and surplus. Reserve and surplus means what? Profit. Whether this is a profit for the company, whether this 20 is profit for the company. पहली बार सोचे ना, you are thinking for the first time ना, this point you are thinking for the first time ना, अरे बोलना रे, in inter तो you have never thought about this. So now understood what actually happening with in my class. We are going with all logics, all logic. Now the question is that why we have transferred 20 to 20 rupees to what? Securities premium account. Do you know the reason? Have you asked this question in CA inter? चलो CA inter तो okay, but the initial journal entry was done in CA foundation or class 11 12. Have you asked this question to your faculty why 20 has been transferred to premium account in CA inter? Have you asked this question? अरे बोलो ना. Understood the difference what ki commerce education, whatever teacher says we say okay and we go, but in CA final ऐसा नहीं चलेगा. Whatever I am saying till you understand conceptually, don't leave it. You need to ask why. Means up to CA inter you have done two things, what and how. You have done what to be done and how to be done, but you have never asked what, why. You have never asked why. Yes or no? अरे बोल दे yes or no. But in CA final you need to do all the three things, what, how and why. Why we are doing that also you ask. Why this? Why not that? Understood? If you have understood that why, it means all the concepts are clear. So my question to you, why 20 has been transferred to premium account? Why not we have done the journal entry, bank account debit to equity share capital directly? Correct. Means this is the journal entry, but our Ind AS, abhi to we have not started our Ind AS accounting. Ind AS says that whatever contribution received from shareholder, that will be transferred to equity. Means there is no concept of premium under Ind AS. Means if you read Ind AS, you will never find any account known as premium account. Means as per Ind AS, will pass one journal entry, bank account debit to equity, which is correct only. Which is correct na? Nothing wrong about this na? Are bol de yes? Yes. So bank account debit to equity. This is the journal entry as per Ind AS. As per Ind AS. But we pass this journal entry. Why? Only because of which act? Companies Act. Companies Act says. Now why the Companies Act says that we need to ask the person who has formed what? Companies Act. There is no logic behind this. I will say bakwas journal entry. Maha bakwas journal entry. This is totally bakwas. Totally bakwas. But can we do the violation of Companies Act? Can we override the requirement of Companies Act? Means ultimately we are passing journal entry by complying all the requirement of Companies Act. Means companies Ind AS cannot override the requirement of law. Similarly, AS cannot override the requirement of law, and therefore in CA Inter and CA Foundation you have done this journal entry because of compliance of Act. If somebody asks you why we have opened securities premium account, only one reason, due to Companies Act, nothing else. Correct? Now, from my point of view, totally bakwas journal entry. There is no logic of securities premium account. If you ask me logic, so there is no logic. Correct? This act to act na. Ab income tax act you have done. There are many things given. Can we ask why income tax act done that? No. Act means act. Written means we need to follow. We need to follow that. Correct? So this journal entry is as per Companies Act, and this journal entry is as per Ind AS. But which will follow in exam? Companies Act journal entry. Correct? Are you getting? Because Companies Act cannot override a requirement of, sorry, Ind AS cannot override a requirement of Companies Act. Understood? One example I have given. There are many other examples. I will give you. Understood? So if somebody asks you why we opened securities premium account, the reason is what? Due to due to compliance of Companies Act. Understood? Yes, sir. Correct. Yes, sir. So now I hope you have understood what is the meaning of this point. Point number 7. The law will prevail over Ind AS and AS requirement. However, there is one Schedule 3 of Companies Act. Schedule 3 you have done. Schedule 3 mein what is given? Format of balance sheet and SOPL. Now, if you see Schedule 3, that if you see Schedule 3, the Schedule 3 is actually having 3 divisions. Schedule 3 of which act? Companies Act 2013 के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. Has 3 division. Division 1, you know about this. Division 1, Division 2 and Division 3. Do you know about this? Huh? Do you know about this? Acha, in your CA Inter, you have followed Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. You have followed Division 1 because Division 1 is applicable to those companies which are applying accounting standard. Correct? So Division 1 is applicable to those companies which are preparing financial statement based on accounting standard. Division 2 will be applicable to those companies which are preparing financial statement based on Ind AS. Based on Ind AS means Division 2 will study where in our CA final classes. Means Division 2 will be applicable for our syllabus. Division 1 is not applicable. So format will change. Format of balance sheet and SOPL is going to change. Correct. Now that format will do. I am just giving an idea of what we are going to do, what we are going to follow in our classes. So Division 1 was applicable in CA Inter and Division 2 will be applicable in CA final. Now what about Division 3? Now Division 3 is applicable to those companies, those NBFC which adopted what? Adopted Ind AS. Now because NBFC is not in our syllabus, therefore Division 3 is automatically not in our syllabus. Therefore we will not discuss Division 3 in our classes. If you want to learn Division 3, because Division 3 you have not done CA Inter also. Correct. Now if you want to learn by your own. Understood? And that will you will automatically understand because you have the knowledge of Ind AS. Got this point? Yes, sir. So it means there are 3 divisions in Schedule 3. Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. For our syllabus, what is applicable? Division 2. So whenever we are preparing financial statement in our class, that is as per Division 2 format. Now in Division 2, they have given the format of balance sheet and statement of profit and loss. That we'll discuss afterward. Okay, correct. Now, as per the Schedule 3 requirement, what Schedule 3 says that the Schedule 3 Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 can be modified as per the requirement of AS and Ind AS. Means, can I say, if suppose AS or Ind AS require some changes, so we can modify this format. Means, can I say the format given in Schedule 3 of Companies Act can be modified as per the requirement of Ind AS. It means if there is some changes in Ind AS, we can modify the format. So can I say in this way, कि Ind AS will override a requirement of only Schedule 3 of Companies Act. Only Schedule 3, not any other schedule. Correct? Got this point? That is only given for your clarification. However, it was not required right now, but I have just given that you should know this point. Why Ind AS can modify the format given what? Therefore, I have given Ind AS will prevail over the requirement of Schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013. Understood this point? Correct. Any doubt? Now, one point will come about the foreign companies, which are nothing but subsidiaries, associate and joint venture of Indian parent company. Now, the question is that, just try to understand. Suppose there is one Indian parent company. An Indian company has a foreign subsidiary. Understood? Now, Indian company is a listed company. Suppose listed company, now every listed company, what is applicable? Ind AS is applicable. Ind AS is applicable. It means, can I say, for Indian company, the separate financial statement means their own financial statement, not consolidated. So they are preparing their separate financial statement based on Ind AS. Now the question is that one point is given in the roadmap, if the Ind AS is applicable to any company, so their parent company, their associate company, their joint venture company, their subsidiary company, what will be applicable? Now the question is that this foreign subsidiary, whether Ind AS will be applicable? Yes or no? Apply your common sense. Yes or no? Huh? For the no, yes, because Companies Act is not applicable to foreign subsidiary. Now it is not incorporated under Companies Act. Means as per, what do you mean by company? Company means which are incorporated under Companies Act or any other previous Companies Act. ऐसा लिखा हुआ है ना? So this foreign subsidiary Companies Act 2013 is not applicable. Therefore, can you see, they will not prepare their financial statement based on Ind AS. So what they will apply? Their own gap. Their own gap. Suppose they are listed in London Stock Exchange, so they will apply IFRS. They will apply IFRS. So can you say, let us say for them they are preparing their financial statement. Ind AS is still not applicable. Ind AS not applicable. So they will prepare their financial statement based on, I am just writing IFRS. If it is a US based company, so US gap may be also applicable. For US company, US gap is there. Correct now? So they don't apply IFRS. US company, US based company. So IFRS. Now the question is that this, so you have understood that for foreign company, Ind AS is not applicable. The question arises, the Indian company, Indian parent company will prepare consolidated financial statement with what foreign subsidiary? Now the question is that, can we combine these two? Can we combine? No, we can't combine. Then what will do? Then what will do? Bolo? Conversion. What will convert? For very good. Means you are applying your common sense now. This is common sense. Apply your common sense. Whenever a case study comes up, become CA. Suppose you have forgotten the point. Correct. Suppose you have forgotten the point in exam, because this much we can't retain in example. Become CA and give the answer. Most of the time your answer will be correct. Most of the time your answer will be correct, but you must be confident about your answer. Whatever you are writing, that will be correct only, but you should be confident about your answer. So of course, can I say, what clarification has been given? For consolidation purpose, this foreign subsidiary will provide information based on what? They provide information based on Ind AS. For which purpose? For consolidation purpose, not for reporting purpose. Reporting they are doing based on what? IFRS. But they are providing Ind AS number to parent company for which purpose? Consolidation purpose. Consolidation purpose. So information based on Ind AS for consolidation purpose. Have you understood this point? Any doubt? This type of question can be asked in exam. Now this type of question is can be asked in MCQs. Correct? Can you say only one attempt has gone for MCQ? Correct? So with MCQ introduction, all concepts become what important. Now we don't know what type of question they are going to ask in MCQs. Can I say n number of questions can be created, and we don't know the feeling of what ICI. So any question can be asked. Means when there was no MCQs, the syllabus was very easy, because we know what type of question they will ask. We know there is no scope of asking this type of question. Are you getting? Because they will not ask 5 marks question from this now. Got this? But for 2 marks question they may ask. So with MCQs introduction, each and every concept become important. Got this point? Yes, sir. Any doubt? So that clarification has been given. What is the clarification? It is a relief that an overseas subsidiary, overseas means foreign subsidiary, foreign associate, foreign joint venture of an Indian company is not required to prepare its standalone financial statement as per Ind AS. As per Ind AS. However, this entity will still have to report their Ind AS adjusted number, Ind AS adjusted number for the Indian parent company to prepare consolidated Ind AS account. Got this point? Correct. More or less we have completed this chapter. But I like to ask three questions to you which I have not discussed. Suppose that question come and we have not done in class, you need to apply what? Can you blame me in exam hall? Don't blame me. It's a wastage of time. Wastage of time now. Suppose I have not done any concept. In exam hall, don't blame me. After exam, blame me. In exam hall, 3 hours are very important. You need to answer whatever you know, whatever you have understood, you need to answer. So let me ask that three questions. Apply your common sense and let's see whether you can answer that question or not. Okay. Now, suppose there is one Indian company, means I am saying about parent company, and it is a subsidiary. Both are Indian company. Okay. Now, parent company is a listed company. So Ind AS is applicable. Ind AS is applicable, no doubt. Now this subsidiary company is a banking company, quite possible, or insurance company, quite possible. Understood now? Means subsidiary of this parent company is a banking company, or it can be insurance company, for which till now the Ind AS is not applicable. Now the question is that subsidiary of this parent company for which Ind AS is applicable, that we know कि any parent company, any associate, any joint venture, any subsidiary of the company for which Ind AS is applicable. Ind AS will be applicable. Now apply your common sense whether for this banking or insurance company Ind AS is applicable or not applicable. Applicable, not applicable. Correct. Not applicable, na. So whether you know this point or you are applying your common sense. Common sense now. You applied your common sense. Now this question will come and I have not done in class. Will you say out of book? Huh? Will you say out of syllabus? This is only concept you have applied now. I have not said anything. So it means all the questions can be done once you have understood the core subject. Once you have understood the feeling of that chapter, you can answer or not. You can answer. That you need to develop. You need to develop that skill. Not only for FR exam, for all the exam. Basically, I am saying for audit exam, for DT exam, for IDT exam, and law to chalo DLT ho gaya. For that type of chapters, for that type of subject, this type of emotions you need to develop. Got this point? Yes, sir. So not applicable. 100% correct. 100% correct. Means can I say for this banking company, insurance company or NBFC, Ind AS will be applicable as per their time applicability. Ind AS will be applicable as per their time applicability. For example, they may ask this question: ki this subsidiary is NBFC, and for this listed company, for this parent company, Ind AS was applicable on 1/4/2016. So batao, for this NBFC, whether Ind AS is applicable from 1/4/2016? No, it will be applicable from their time applicability, means from 1/4/2018 or 19. 18 or 19. Understood? One more question. Apply your common sense. Now suppose there is a parent company. It is a listed company and Ind AS is applicable. Ind AS is applicable. It has a subsidiary company and it is a banking company or insurance company. So of course now I will say AS is applicable. AS is applicable or the act is applicable. The AS, accounting standard or act, means they will prepare their financial statement based on their particular act. And if the act is silent, we apply what? Accounting standard. Got this point? Yes, sir. So can you see their standalone financial statement will prepare based on what? Ind AS and AS. Now parent company will prepare consolidated financial statement. Whether they can combine these two. So what need to be done? So it means banking company or insurance company in this case will provide information based on what? Means indirectly Ind AS is applicable. But for reporting purpose, they will prepare financial statement based on what? Accounting standard. You can't say Ind accounting standard. Correct now. So they will provide information for consolidation purpose based on what? Ind AS. So they will provide information based on Ind AS. This type of question can be asked in exam. Got this point? All common sense. Okay. One more question. Understand? Any doubt? No doubt. One more question. Let us reverse the case. Suppose parent company is a banking company or insurance company. Correct? Understood? And it is a listed company. बताओ. Ind AS की AS. AS. Thank you very much. AS na. So they will prepare the standalone financial statement based on accounting standard. Now they have a subsidiary company which is a general company. Is I am not writing anything, means it is a general company. And this is also what listed company. But what is applicable? Ind AS is applicable. Ind AS is applicable. Very good. Ind AS is applicable. Correct. Now, but the consolidated financial statement will be prepared by whom? Parent company. Based on Ind AS or AS? AS. Very good. So now, what subsidiary company will do? They will provide information based on what? Accounting standard. So this all clarification has been given the roadmap only. In this case, they will provide information based on accounting standard for consolidation purpose. For consolidation purpose. Understood? This also you have understood. So this type of case study may be asked in MCQ question or can be asked for 4 marks also. Chalega. One more point. Suppose there is one company ABC Limited which is a listed company and is listed in 2 stock exchange. One is London Stock Exchange, one is Indian Stock Exchange. Quite possible? Quite possible or not? Now, as per the requirement of Indian Stock Exchange, before application of Ind AS, means I am saying before 1/4/2016. Before 1/4/2016, they are preparing financial statement based on existing accounting standard. And because they are listed in London Stock Exchange, they need to fulfill the requirement of London Stock Exchange. They are also preparing financial statement based on IFRS. Quite possible now. So can you say before application of Ind AS, they are preparing 2 set of financial statement. They are preparing 2 set of financial statement. Now on 1/4/2016, because it is a listed company, what is applicable? Ind AS is applicable. Ind AS is applicable. Now what ABC Limited is saying, because there is a difference of only 5% between IFRS and Ind AS, only 5% difference. So they will convert this financial statement to what? This financial statement. This will be easy to convert now. Means they will not convert this financial statement to this financial statement. Are you able to understand? They have 2 set of financial statements. Already they have prepared financial statement based on IFRS. Now converting financial statement based on IFRS to Ind AS will be easy. Converting financial statement based on AS to Ind AS will be very difficult because there are a lot of changes. Are you getting what I am saying? So they are saying that because we are already preparing financial statement based on IFRS, so we'll substitute IFRS to what? Ind AS. Whether they can do that? Apply common sense. Yes sir or no sir? Every time common sense can't be correct. Correct now. Common sense is not so much correct also. Means now whatever you are saying, that is not correct. Correct now. So what, as per Abhi right now we are following London Stock Exchange, Indian Stock Exchange. So this financial statement need to be converted into what? Ind AS financial statement. So this is not correct. This is not correct. Understood? So one clarification has been given by the roadmap that I need to just inform you. But have you understood this point? Correct. So what they are saying, just try to understand. The company cannot adopt IFRS as a substitution for Ind AS. If they are preparing their financial statement based on IFRS. Understood. So one clarification has been given. Understood. Correct. Got this point? Now these three case study already I have discussed about that banking and NBFC we have discussed. Now all these case study already I have discussed. Already I have discussed. Then chapter over. We'll take some question. Chapter will over. Now this chapter is for 2 to 4 marks or 0 marks. I don't know whether from this chapter question will come or not, but in last attempt 4 marks question was have been asked from this chapter for the first time. For the first time. So every chapter is important. Can you say which chapter is important and which chapter is not important from your point of view? What do you think important, not important? Very good. Can you say no based on marks means what? No, just write any chapter which is important, not important depend upon whether the question is coming or not coming in exam. Means we can understand any chapter is important only in exam hall. Suppose as per weightage from consolidation chapter 20 marks question will come. It become important. It is quite possible in your exam no question from that topic, so it become not important now. It means there is no important, there is no not important. Correct now. You will understand important or not important only in exam hall. Only in exam hall. So I will say delete that point from your life. If this chapter is important, this chapter is not important. You need to only think whether you have understood or not understood. If you have understood any question, whatever they are asking, you can do it. Chalega. Last case study, I will just ask you. Just try to understand this point. Just apply your common sense once again. Okay. Suppose there is one parent company P Limited has one subsidiary S1 and S2. S2 has two more subsidiaries, correct? S3 and S4. And S2 has two more subsidiaries S5, S6, correct? Now as on 1/4/2016, suppose the current date is 1/4/2016. This S1 was a listed company. A listed company. Understood? Listed company. And other companies are not listed. Means if I am not writing, means they are unlisted company. So P Limited, S3, S4, S2, S5, S6 are unlisted. Now you will say for S1 so what is applicable? Ind AS is applicable, no doubt. But for P Limited what is applicable? Ind AS is applicable, no doubt. For S3 what is applicable? Ind AS is applicable, no doubt. For S4 what is applicable? Ind AS is applicable, no doubt. Up to this to no doubt. Up to this no doubt. Now doubt will come for what? Now the question is that for S2, S5, S6, whether Ind AS is applicable or not applicable. Applicable, not applicable. Applicable, how? You are saying for P Limited Ind AS is applicable, therefore for S2 Ind AS is applicable. You are saying that? Are bola yes or no? Anyone saying not applicable? Everyone saying applicable na? Now this is known as interpretation of act. Let us interpret. Let us interpret. Interpretation does not depend upon common sense. Let us interpret now. You know about interpretation of act? Correct? These rules are also part of act na? Let us read. 1 second read. Means when I was actually reading that time I have not explained that. Intensely I have not explained that because I was knowing that at the end I will do one question on that. What is given? A, B, 2 points are given in this roadmap for phase 1. Then written parent, subsidiary, associate and joint venture of above company, which are in point number A and point number B. Means Ind AS is applicable only to those parent, to those subsidiary, to those associate, to those joint venture which are of which company, which are in point number A and point number B. Batao, in this example, in point number A, which company was there? S1. And batao whether S2 is a subsidiary of S1, whether it is a parent of S1, whether it is a joint venture of S1, whether it is an associate of G. So not applicable. Not applicable. Understood? So of course, as per interpretation, it is not applicable. Not applicable. However, voluntarily they can adopt. Voluntarily they can adopt. Or even though they are not adopting, for consolidation purpose, they need to provide information based on Ind AS. So practically they will adopt. Practically they adopt. But from exam point of view, if they will ask whether Ind AS is applicable or not applicable, what do you say? Not applicable. Then you say that yes, for consolidation purpose, they should voluntarily adopt what? Ind AS. They should voluntarily adopt Ind AS. But as per interpretation, not applicable. Not applicable. Got this point? All points I have done. All points I have done. Let us do some questions now from ICS study material. Now this is a question bank. In question bank now, all the questions of ICS study material, all the questions of RTP till date. Till date means last exam was what? What last exam was? Last exam was? So for that RTP, all questions have been incorporated. MTP till date, all questions have been incorporated. Past exam question except last exam, because recently one, correct, and we have not received suggested solution, so that I will add after some time. So except last exam, all past exam question have been incorporated. Got this point? Means now you are not supposed to do any research about RTP, MTP and past year exam question. Everything has been incorporated. So don't waste your time by observing RTP, MTP etc. Correct? Let's see one by one past kar le all the questions. So question number 1. Following is a snapshot of audited balance sheet of company A as on 31st March 2014. Company's A's equity shares are listed on Bombay Stock Exchange since 2010. They have given the balance sheet, simple balance sheet. As per roadmap, which phase company A fall into? Will your answer change if company A is an unlisted company? So it means you need to calculate net worth. Calculate net worth fast. Equity share capital will be added. Securities premium will be added. General reserve will be added. Revaluation reserve will not be added. PL account added. Liability what? And miscellaneous expenditure not written off will be deducted. So what is the net worth? What is coming? It is how much? 505 is coming. But in which phase, if it is a listed company, in which phase it is falling? Phase 1 ki phase 2? Phase 1. Phase 1. Will your answer change if the company A is unlisted company? No, because phase 1 unlisted company having a net worth of 500 or 500 crore or more means then it is Ind AS will be applicable. So in both A and B, the answer is what? Phase 1. This type of question they will ask for 2 marks. Correct? Correct now? Easy or complicated? Can you say any question will become complicated if you have forgotten? So question become complicated only you have forgotten. Question is not complicated. You have forgotten. Correct? So right now so it is written because abhi taja we have done. Your exam, I don't know which attempt it is. It can be after 6 months, it can be after 1 year, it can be after 1.5 years. So can you retain this point up to that date? For that what is required? Consistent revision is required. That you are supposed to do. Chalega. One more question. This answer so you can read na. Answer I am not reading. Chalega. Let's say in question number 1, the balance of profit and loss account is a negative 375 crore. Like now the balance of PL account is negative 375 crore. All other information remain same. When Ind AS should be applicable to company A, will your answer change if the company A is an unlisted company? बताओ. What will be the net worth if PL become negative 375? It become how much? 160 plus 200 plus 150 minus 375 and minus 80. How much it is coming? Calculator कर ले. जागो भाई जागो. Everything I will do. बोलो how much? No calculator. This is FR class भाई. Calculator should be there mandatory. 55 negative or positive? So 55 net worth came 55. But if it is a listed company, whether Ind AS is applicable in which phase? Phase 2. If it is unlisted company, Ind AS is applicable? Not applicable. Done. चलेगा? Yes sir. आगे चलते हैं. Question number 3. The net worth of company B, an unlisted company, was 600 crore. So net worth of company B, an unlisted company, was 600 crore as on 31st March 2014. However, due to losses incurred in 14-15, the net worth of the company become 400 crore as on 31st March 2015. From when the company shall apply Ind AS? Means what they are saying? Previous 3 financial. What was the first financial year? 13-14 na? So 13-14, what is the net worth? 600 crore. And 14-15, what is the net worth? 400 crore. Batao. So if in any 1 year net worth is more than, so Ind AS will be applicable from which phase? Phase 1. Phase 1 means from 1st April 2016. So what is the answer given? From 1st April 2016. 2 marks, beautiful question. 2 marks, beautiful question. In exam, it is a dangerous question. Huh? In exam, it is a dangerous question. Because first you will not revise only. In AS introduction, who revise Baba? You will have no time for revision only. Who will revise? Correct na? Because you have better chapter for revision na? So last time revision is the actual revision what you do before exam, and at that point of time if you have not revised and you forgotten, so this become difficult question. So retention is more important. Retention is more important. That I think all questions you can do, but I am doing my job. Okay. I said initial first 10 class I'll be slow. Okay. The net worth of company C, an unlisted company, was 400 crore on 31st March 2014. However, the net worth of company was 600 crore on 31st March 2015. It has been increased from when company B shall follow Ind AS. But from which date? 1st April 2016. So from 1st April 2016. Got this point? आगे चले. Company D is a parent company of a group A. So company D is a parent company of group A. The parent company. Company A is unlisted company having a net worth of 60 crore as on 31st March 2014. Following are the other company of the group. Company B unlisted, subsidiary of company A. Company C, subsidiary of company B. 600 crore, 150 crore. It means you will draw the map. Otherwise, you will not be able to follow. But our company A is an unlisted company. Can we draw? So company A is an unlisted company. Correct. Then what is given? Company D is the parent company of group A. Correct. And company B is the subsidiary of company A. Subsidiary कर दो. So it is a subsidiary of. Then what is given? Company C is the subsidiary of company B. Okay, sir. Company C. And what is the parent of and what they have given? Company D is what? Company D is a parent company. So company D is what? Parent of group A. Ultimate parent company. Ultimate parent company. This is the chart. Now what they have given? Net worth also they have given. So what is the net worth of company A? 60 crore. 60 crore. correct? Then company B, unlisted company, 600 crore and 150 crore. So 600 crore and 150 crore. This is the point. Okay, sir. Now what is the question? Question what they have asked, whether India is applicable to company ABC. Whether India is applicable to ABC. So they have asked about A, B and C. So company B, whether India is applicable. From which date? From 1st April 2016. So if this is applicable to company A, it is also applicable, and to company C is also applicable. So India is applicable to A, B and C. They have not asked about company D. However, if they ask for company D, so as per rules, so it is not applicable, because company D, are you getting what I am saying? Correct? So they have not asked. छोड़ दो अभी, आगे चलते हैं. Next point. Following in the structure of company D, this is a good question which I have asked. Company D, company E, company F, subsidiary. Company H is the subsidiary of company D. Then company I and company G, associate and subsidiary. All the company in the above structures are unlisted company, and the net worth of company E means this, is 300 crore. So it is 300 crore, and net worth of all other companies below 250 crore. To which company would Ind AS applicable? Batao. From which phase? First, so this will be applicable from which phase? Phase 2. Batao. Whether community Ind AS will be applicable? Yes, applicable. To company F? Yes, applicable. To company G? Yes, applicable. To company H? No, not applicable. To company I? No, not applicable. Correct. Let's see what the answer is given. What is given? Hence, the other company of group, that is company H and company I, would not be covered under Ind AS. Would not be covered under Ind AS. However, as mentioned in ITFG, correct? This you are not supposed to write down. Company H and I would be required to prepare its financial statement under Ind AS so as to facilitate company D for the preparation of its consolidated financial statement. That only I have said. Hence, though statutorily company H and I may continue to prepare its financial statement under AS, but it will have to converge to Ind AS. Moreover, they may also opt to voluntarily adopt Ind AS and prepare a statutory account under Ind AS. They may voluntarily anytime adopt. Okay. I think balance all questions you can do by your own. Can you do by your own? If you want, I can read. Correct. But what I will do in this type of question, my job is very less. I am here to only give concept. Correct. Understood. So can I say if I will do all the questions, then what you will do? What you will do? Nothing, na? So you need to also do some questions by your own. Chalega. So do it. If any doubt come, then we'll discuss. However, doubt will not come in this set. So with this, we completed Ind AS introduction. Now let us start the first Ind AS of your life. First Ind AS of your life. Correct. So that will be what? Ind AS 37. Chapter number 5. Chapter number 5. Ind AS 37. Correct. What is the name of Ind AS 37? Provision, contingent liability and contingent asset. Very much familiar. You are also happy. I am also happy. Corresponding AS is what? AS 29. And from my point of view in CA Inter, you have understood AS 29. Bolo yes or no? You don't say reply कर दो बाबा. Reply कर दो. From my point of view, you know AS29 or not? मजा नहीं आ रहा है. Yes, sir. You know or you don't know? Have you understood in CA Inter or not? You have understood in CA Inter? Chalo, okay, very good. So the term is what? The name is, the title is what? Provision, contingent liability and contingent asset. So let me ask you some question to understand whether you have understood that term or not. Correct? My first question is that whether provision is a liability or it is not a liability. Huh? It is a liability. No doubt about this. First answer is correct. Second question is that whether contingent liability is a liability or not a liability. Contingent liability ना ना अभी I am asking अभी तो right now it is contingent liability ना in future छोड़ो. I am asking right now it is contingent liability. Any item is contingent liability. Whether it is a liability or it is not a liability. Not a liability. चलो very good. So what is the difference between provision and contingent liability? रुको one by one. What is the difference? No, I am not asking about accounting treatment. I am asking about what is the difference between provision and contingent liability. Is when an event will become provision, when an event will become contingent liability. So, you want to say? Certainty. What certainty? Means if it is certain then provision. If it is not certain then everyone is saying that means you are saying provisions are certain. You are you are saying certain na? So provisions are certain. Then once again define. You are saying provisions are also uncertain. If you are saying not 100% to uncertain na? Arey. If you are saying not 100%, it is uncertain only na. The provision are also uncertain and contingent liability is also. So what is the difference? So they both become same only. Means contingent liability there will be no cash outflow. तो मतलब मजा आता है. यही हो गया मे और मे नॉट. इन योर सी एंटर योर टीचर सेज मे और मे नॉट. मजा आ जाता था. अंडरस्टूड व्हाट हैपेंड इन सी एंटर. इन सी एंटर मजाक हुआ. AS29 was pure in your syllabus, totally in your syllabus, but your देखो I am respecting every teacher because I also teach CA inter, correct now. So respecting every teacher, I am not saying that they are bad teacher or good teacher, no, correct. But can I say if AS29 was full in your syllabus but teaching was done only from examination point of view, because in exam only what was required, working knowledge was required, but AS29 was full in your syllabus. No one has defined properly provision. They have done that chapter, but only hawa mein. Got this point. And now with this knowledge you become CA. What will happen in market? Will anyone will give remuneration to you? Whether anyone will give remuneration to you? अरे बोलना रे. Interview they ask this type of question. What will happen? If suppose you will say may or may not, so they will say bye bye only. Yes or no? They will come. They will say come once again after 6 months for interview. Yes or no? Most of the people got rejected in all the interview. Means if I am saying 100 people went for interview, correct now, only 4 or 5 people will be selected. Most of the people will be rejected in the interview only because of this thing. We become CA but with half knowledge. With half knowledge. Correct. So it means I need to explain you right now from the beginning. From the beginning. On the understanding that you don't know anything about CA Inter Accounting Standard 29, because if I assume that you know AS 29, then only 5 points are of difference. The difference you can see at the end it is given, and that will not take more than 5 minutes. So if you know AS 29, only this difference is required to understand Ind AS 37. Got this point? What I am saying, but that I can't do. And of course, the level of question, level of understanding will be different in CA final. So as compared to CA Inter, The level of understanding require more. Level of question will be also different. Correct. So same question can be asked in CA final, but with different understanding. The level will be different. So their requirement will be different. Their requirement will be different. Chalo. Now let us understand this chapter from CA final point of view. Okay, sir. One more question. चलो पूछ लेता हूँ. पूछ लेता हूँ. ठीक है ना. You said provisions are liability. That was correct. And contingent liability is not a liability. That was also correct. मजा तो आया उसमें. Correct. My next question is that do you know about provision for doubtful debt? Provision for doubtful debt. Whether it is a liability, it is not a liability. How many are saying provision for doubtful debt is a liability? How many of you are saying provision for doubtful debt is a liability? बताओ. अरे, one is raising hand now. अच्छा, how many are saying provision for doubtful debt is not a liability? Confusion means someone is raising hand, someone is not raising hand, and some are totally silent like this. ये क्या हो रहा है? Got this point? Means some is saying yes, some is saying no, and some are silent. I always hate those people those who are silent. CA never keep silent. They will give wrong answer or correct answer, but they will try to convince their wrong answer also. CA means what? They will give answer and try to convince their point. They will try to convince you in exam or you need to convince that your answer is correct. Likho and convince that you are correct. You need to frame the answer in such a way that examiner is confused. Whether to give marks or whether to give full marks or half marks. Direct to nahi karega. So that should be the answer. That is the quality of answer required in CA final exam. You don't know, give both the answer na. In such a way they are also confused. Are bolna re? Am I right or no? Give both the answer. But you should confuse them na. That is chartered accountancy. Correct. So I hate those students who don't answer. Those who remain silent, I don't like them. You should answer yes, yeah, no, either correct or wrong. Got this point? So those who are saying provision for doubtful debt is a liability, my question is that do you show provision for doubtful debt in the liability side of balance sheet? Whether you show in the liability side of balance sheet. So if you are showing provision for doubtful debt liability, then whatever balance sheet you have prepared was wrong. Then that time why you have not asked your teacher? Keep provision for doubtful debt liability. Why you are not saying in the liability side of balance sheet? Why you are deducting from debtor? If you are deducting from debtor, it is not a liability. And liability means obligation to pay. Whether there is an obligation to pay in case of provision for doubtful debt? No. How can you say liability? And those who are saying provision for doubtful debt is not a liability, then next question is that whether provision is a liability. The provision for doubtful debt is not a liability. And you are saying provision is liability. Confusion, lot of confusion. To clear that confusion, my explanation is required. Now listen whatever I am saying. Abhi I am not answering anything. All questions will be resolved automatically if you understood the concept conceptually. Correct? Now there was one term in CA Inter that was known as contingencies. Have you heard about this term? Contingencies? Contingencies? What do you mean? In which accounting standard you have done contingencies? Contingencies. AS4. What was the title of AS4? What was the title of AS4? Contingencies and event occurring after balance sheet date. Means AS4 deals with two parts. Contingencies and event occurring after balance sheet date. However, with the introduction of AS29, most of the contingencies were shifted from AS4 to AS29, and therefore your teacher has never done contingencies in CA Inter. Means they have not defined also. I know they have not defined contingency, but the meaning of contingencies was given where? In AS4, not in AS29. The meaning of contingencies was given in AS4 but not in AS29. Now do you know what do you mean by contingencies? Do you know what do you mean by contingencies? Huh? Write down. Write down. Write down. I know because you don't know. Correct. The contingencies are condition or any situations existing on reporting date. Reporting date means what? Balance sheet date. Now in AS they have used the word reporting date. In accounting standard they used to use the word balance sheet date. So now we'll change from balance sheet date to reporting date. Chalega? Chalega? Yes sir. So are the condition or situation existing on reporting date? Outcome of which? Outcome. Outcome means what? Result. And that outcome can be favorable or unfavorable. That can be either favorable or unfavorable. From whose point of view? Entity's point of view. We are discussing from entities, not from user point of view. Correct now. It can be favorable, it can be unfavorable. The outcome which can be favorable or unfavorable. Correct. The outcome of which is not known. Is not known. So on balance sheet date, there was a condition. An outcome of that condition was not known. What is going to happen? Correct. And this outcome is dependent on, which is dependent on happening or non-happening happening or non-happening of what? Which event? Past event, present event, future event, which is dependent on happening or non-happening. Happening, it is a present continuous word. So happening or non-happening of future event, which is certain or uncertain? Uncertain. So which is dependent on happening or non-happening of uncertain future event. Understood? This is the meaning of contingency. Correct. I think English, if you know, you have understood the definition. But I know what how much English you know. We are not perfect in English. We all are, including me. We are not perfect in English because this is not our mother tongue. Am I right or not? So it means we need to understand now from accounting point of view the exact meaning of this contingencies. Correct now. So once you have understood English, we don't think that you have understood the meaning as per accounting. So we need to elaborate it. We need to discuss in a detailed way. Correct. So our condition or situation existing on balance sheet date, it means this condition has been arised from which event? Past event, present event or future event? Past event. Means can I say existing means it is already arise, arise, correct? By past event means some event has already occurred and because of that event condition is existing on reporting date. Understood? So already some past event has occurred and because of that past event there is some condition on reporting date outcome of which is not known and which is based on the happening or non-happening of uncertain future. This is contingencies. This is contingent. Let me take a very simple example of your life. Of your life. Let me take a very simple example. Correct. I'll take very simple example. Suppose today is your exam day. This example I take in CA Inter also. In CA Inter also. Today is your exam day. exam day. And first paper is FR, and you are ready for what? Exam. And you are prepared for getting 90% and above. Means you are fully prepared. Got this point? Now you just started for your examination hall. Because you need to go to exam hall to write down the exam now. So your exam hall is 1 kilometer from your house. 1 kilometer. Understood? And you'll go by walking only. Means you can't use any private transport, public transport, lift, etc. You need to go by walking. Correct now? To make this example, I need to take that assumption. We suppose strike is there, only you can go by walking. 1 kilometer you can walk. 1 kilometer so you can walk na? Correct, yes sir. But what you have observed, the moment you started for your exam hall, what you have observed, there is black cloud. Oh, acha. The moment you started, you have seen that there is a black cloud. Understood? This is a condition existing on this particular day. Yes or no? Condition. Outcome of which is not known. Whether rain will come or will not come. That is not known. Correct? Which is dependent on happening or non-happening of uncertain future event. Uncertain future event. But today in your life there is a contingency or not? Today in your life there is a contingency or not? Yes, so yes sir, meaning satisfied. So on exam day there is some contingencies. So with that contingency you need to react. Now what is the reaction? That reaction will become accounting treatment in accounting. That reaction will become accounting treatment in your accountancy, but not in your life. But here also you need to react. So what you will search? Because you are a smart student, you have a smartphone, and a smartphone have Google Baba. You will ask Google Baba one question. What question you will ask? What is the probability of rain? What is the probability of rain? Because you can go only by walking. Correct now. So you ask the Google Baba, what is the probability of rain? And as on today, as per the weather condition given by the Google Baba, they say there is a high probability. Oh, high probability. Oh, of what? Rain. It does not mean rain will come. High probability does not mean rain will come. Abhi it may or may not, but there is a high chances that rain will come. So bata, abhi right now, what action you will take? Umbrella. You will take umbrella or raincoat. Whether you will take or you will use. You will take. Means you will create provision or you will use provision. Create provision. You will use when rain will come. But if rain will not come, what will do? You will come back and keep what? Umbrella. You will not use it now. This is nothing but accounting treatment. Means if there is a high probability of losses, you will create what? Provision. But whether you will use provision? You will use provision when loss actually happen. Understood? And if not happen, what will do? You reverse the provision. You will keep it back now. You reverse the provision. That only you have done in your life. In your past life. Past life means what? In CA Inter and CA Foundation. Got this point? Very much clear? Very much clear. I hope this example you have understood. Yes, there was a contingencies and for that you have created what? Provision. I would like to change the example. So as a change I will do. Same situation. Same thing happened. You started for your exam. But now what happened? With cloud, black cloud, wind was also blowing. High speed wind was blowing. It means the position of cloud may change from one place to another place. Am I right or not? Now you ask Google Baba. So Google Baba answer will change. In your locality, there is a less chances of rain. So now situation change. Are you getting? So now if suppose you ask Google Baba and Google Baba is responding, yes, there is a probability, but there is a less probability of, there is a probability, but less probability of Rain means the rain is not probable. We can say rain is not probable. So suppose they will say ki it is not probable. Not probable. Just try to understand. Not probable means chances are less. It is always better to create provision or not. Always better to create provision. Means if you are creating provision, no one will say why you have created provision. No one will say why you have created provision. It is always better to create provision. Correct? Now it is always better to take umbrella. And I am saying that if you are a good student, you will take umbrella only. Correct? Because rain may come now. You want to save yourself, but just try to unnecessary. Why will take umbrella? If there is a less probability, and if you feel that okay, rain will come and less probably we can go within 10 minutes, we can walk and we'll go in speed and we'll reach what exam hall. Correct now. So you may decide not to take umbrella. You may decide not to take umbrella. Correct now. So it means you have not created provision. But if you have not created provision, what you will do? If you have not taken umbrella, what you will do? Well, if you have not taken umbrella, then also rain may come na. Rain may come and heavy rain may come. It was a probability given by Google Baba, but Google Baba may wrong. May be wrong or not. So my question to you all, if you have not taken umbrella, can I say you inform your parents that I am going without umbrella? If rain come and save me. Yes or no? This is what disclosure of the fact to the user of financial statement, that become a contingent liability. That become contingent liability. Means both provision and contingent liability arises from what? Contingencies only. Both are may or may not. Both are may or may not. But in one probability is high, in other the probability is less. Means whenever you are not creating provision, then disclose the fact to the user of financial statement as contingent liability. This is nothing but a concept. Concept is this much only. Now you need to react depending upon the facts and circumstance. Depending upon the facts and circumstance. Understood? It means, can you say everything depends upon outcome? Outcome. Now outcome, when I am saying outcome, correct? This outcome can be favorable or unfavorable. Favorable or unfavorable. Unfavorable. Why you are not writing? Right? देखो ना. The worst habit of a student that they don't write. You know, writing is required. From bachpan se you are writing only. What happened in CA final, I don't know. You come to CA final, you become auditor. If you will not write, how can you write in exam? You know, most of the time you are not able to complete the entire question paper because you don't have writing habit. In exam, you are not supposed to answer by speaking. You need to answer by writing. And if you don't able to write in exam hall, what will happen? Even though you know the answer, you will not be able to complete the entire question paper. Worst situation of your life. It is worst situation is what? When you know the answer, you are not able to write it. Means you can become CA, but you are not able to become CA because you don't have time. So writing habit karo yaar. I am also writing or not. I can also discuss like this. Dekho, favorable, unfavorable. I can also discuss like that na. अरे भूलना रही है. Or I could have that flow chart already prepared. I am writing because when you write now, you think twice. By writing and by reading also. Means just try to. There are two things happening in your life. So it will be memorized quickly. Understood? One second. Outcome, it can be favorable or unfavorable. Now favorable means what? Favorable in accounting terms with what? Expected income or expense? Expected income. अरे बोलना रे. So it means it is expected outcome will happen in future ना. It is expected income. Expected income. Income include gain. Income include gain. तो बार बार मत बोलो income और gain. Income include gain. Expense include loss. Expense include loss. Correct ना. बचपन में बोलते थे income और gain, expense और loss, but बकवास था. Income include gain. Correct. So it means expected income. expected income, and unfavorable means what? Expected expense is the correct word. Expense, because expense include loss. Expense is a wider term. If you say only loss, then doubt will come. Correct? You say expense, don't say loss. This is a correct terminology. I'm giving you correct terminology. Correct. Now, can you say, actually we are discussing which principle? Conservatism. Conservatism we are discussing. Can you define conservatism? I think you have understood with this discussion, expected income, expected expense, that we are discussing about conservatism. Yes or no? So can you define conservatism? Anticipated all losses. फिर losses यूज किया. देखो बार बार बोलने के बाद भी losses मजा आता है ना. Means they just try to understand. You will not change. Why you will not change? Because 11, 12, foundation, inter accounting, inter advanced accounting. Now you are coming to 5. You will not love me. Will not. ये कौन आ गया भाई? Who is changing us? I am saying expense. You are saying loss. मजा आ रहा है ना आपको? नहीं, just try to understand what I am saying, because you are habituated now. And when you are habituated, it is very difficult to teach. You are habituated of one thing. You are habituated of learning in a wrong way. Now I need to change you, and therefore I am taking 10 days of your life. In first 10 days, I will change you. I will change you. Believe me, in 11 days now, whatever I will ask, most of you will give me correct answer. Most of you, not in the first 10 days. In these 10 days, now I am changing you. Therefore, I am asking a lot of questions. I am asking a lot of questions. Correct? So those who are answering, very good. Those who are not answering, they also answer. Try to answer. Okay, 1 second, batao. What do you mean by conservatism? Who was answering? Change your answer. All expenses and do not anticipate all income. Which income? Which expense? You said all expense. All expense means bolo na expected expense. Correct word is what? Expected expense na. All expense ki expected expense. Expected expense means when you are defining some definition and you are not using the correct terminology, so the meaning will change. And meaning will change, so judgment will change. Judgment will change. Now it is on my opinion whether I should give marks or whether I should not give marks. Correct now. Who is checking your paper? Who will be checking your paper? Who is checking your paper? Chartered accountant. That chartered accountant has taken 5 attempts to pass the exam. Whether he will give easy marks, whether you are expecting easy marks, he has taken multiple attempts. गुस्सा निकालेगा नहीं निकालेगा? बोलेगा हाँ, you have given correct answer. See, they will give. But if they think, अरे what is this? They will cut ना. They will cut to just right answer on the assumption that your paper is checked by that chartered accountant who has taken multiple attempts. Multiple attempts. They will not give easy marks. Don't expect easy marks. Don't expect. And if you are expecting easy marks, multiple attempt will come. There is one rule. This समझ जाओ इस बात को. This is fact I am saying, that you will not get marks for correct answer. There is rule in CA exam. You will not get marks for correct answer. You get marks for best answer. Means here the criteria is not selection na. Here the criteria is not that we will select everyone. This criteria is rejection. What is the ICA criteria? Reject karo. Because few need to become CA. Best need to become CA. The criteria is not selection. The criteria is rejection. And on that basis marks is given. Are you able to understand? Means suppose 1 lakh people has written CA exam. Whether we can make 1 lakh, everyone has written correct answer. So can we make 1 lakh Cs? Demand is only 5,000. If 1 lakh CA will come into the market, what will happen? The value of CA will decrease. Then you will never opt for CA. Correct now? Will you do CA? It means to maintain the level of CA, to maintain the value of CA, the demand and supply should match. If 5,000 required, can we make 10,000 CA? Can we make 15,000 CA? Can we make 20,000 CA? No. It means what is required? Best CA. This is only the criteria. This you will understand only after becoming CA, not in your student life. Means after becoming CA, if I ask you question whether the passing percentage should be 50% or 5%, you will say 2%. You will say me 2%. No, no, sir, 2% ठीक है. But after becoming CA, not before becoming CA. Because you know the fact, more and more CA will come, your value will decrease. So don't expect easy marks. So your answer might be correct from your point of view, but not correct from my point of view. Zero anda I'll give because I am CA. Who is checking your paper? CA. And also assume that I have taken how many attempts? 5 attempts. Understood? And on that basis, write down the answer. This I am just saying so that you improve your answer. You improve your answer. Everyone knows the conservatism principle. So say me correct definition ab bolo. Who will say? Anyone who have not done conservatism? Foundation में you have done ना. So can you define करो 1 second. Anticipate all expected expenses and do not anticipate any expected income. Now let's see whether this definition is correct or not correct. Anyone want to change this definition? Anyone want to change this definition? अरे बोलना. No. Let me take one example. Just try to understand. Suppose this is balance sheet date 31st March, and on this date, can you say this is your future year and there were some employee already appointed, the salary was 10,000 per month, 10,000 for per month. So can you see there is an expected expenses in this future year? Next year you will pay salary of how much? 10,000 into 12, 1,20,000 or not? That is expected or not? The salary is expected or not? So it means on balance sheet date you are expecting the salary to be paid or not? Bol de yes or no? So will you recognize that expected expense on 31st March? It means your definition is wrong. 100% wrong. 100% wrong. And the same definition was given by your foundation faculty. But that time you have never asked. The teacher has not explained because the requirement was not there. But can you say this will become a poison in our life? This definition will become a poison or not? And if I will not correct you right now, same definition you will give after becoming CA. Means something was wrong. So can you say we can't recognize all expected expenses? We can recognize only those expected expenses which are arising from past event. Expected expenses arising from past event. And can you say this is future event? Because right now the employee has not given any services to you. The services will be received in future. So that become future event or past event? Future event. So for this conservatism is not applicable. Conservatism is applicable only for those income, those expenses which are expected and that have arises from which event? Past event. Means outcome arising from what? Arising from past event. This was a keyword. Keyword you are understanding? Keyword is this. It means the correct definition is what? We should recognize all expected expenses arising from past event, and we should not anticipate any expected income arising from past event. This become correct definition. Got this point? Now, as per conservatism, you know that if there is an expected income, will not recognize it. Will not recognize it. That too you have understood. So can you say no recognition? Correct. It will not be recognized. And these are known as what? These are known as contingent asset. We call it contingent asset. Contingent asset. Contingent asset. Require only disclosure. Require only disclosure. This much you understood. Now coming to expected expenses, we have understood that it will be recognized. as provision, as provision, as provision. Correct. It means whatever we have done in CA inter, as per CA inter discussion, if the expected expenses are probable, probable means what? Chances are more than 50%. Chances are more than 50%. Are probable and can be estimated. Can be estimated means amount can be estimated. Amount can be estimated. Can be estimated. Understood? If it is probable and amount can be estimated, then recognize what? Recognize provision. Yeah, we can say provide such expenses. Provide such expenses. Correct now. We can say provide such expenses. Better write down. Recognize such expenses. Understood? And if I will say ki it is not probable or amount cannot be estimated, is either it is not probable or amount cannot be estimated. They disclose the fact as contingent liability, then it will become contingent liability. Yahi kiya? Correct. Read up. In other case, disclose it as contingent liability. Have you understood this much? I think thoda sa understanding. Means I just want to inform you that everything came from contingencies. Everything came from which word? Contingencies only. And contingencies were defined in AS4. And that only we have not done in CA inter. And that only we have not done in CA inter. Because CA inter, that was not required. That was not required. For CA inter exam point of view. Correct. This much you understood. Now coming to expected expenses. Expected expenses. One by one I am taking each topic. First I have taken contingencies, then I have taken outcome, then I am taking about expected expense. Now one thing we have understood, the expected expenses arising from past event. That is understood, huh? Arising from past event. It is expected expenses may be due to two reasons. Either it can be due to decline in the value of asset, decline in the value of asset. Yes or no? Either it can be due to decline in the value of asset or due to what? Increase in the value of increase in the value of liability. Liability. Got this point? Either due to decline in the value of asset or increase in the value of liability. There can be two reasons. Either asset value decline or liability value increase. For example, you have inventory. You purchase at a cost price of rupees 1000, but you can sell at rupees 900. So it is an expected loss or not? You can sell at rupees 900. It is an expected loss or not? Expected loss? Yes or no? So that is due to increase in the value of liability or decrease in the value of asset? Decrease in the value of asset. Correct now. Means can I say whenever I am saying increase in the value of liability, it means what? It means there is an outflow of resource. There is an outflow of resource means in future we are going to settle it by outflow of resource. Means you need to pay the amount. It will be settled through outflow of resource. It means it will be settled. Yeah, require settlement. It require settlement through outflow of resource. Requires settlement through outflow of resource. Correct. And AS29 was applicable to this. AS29 means now Ind AS 37 will be applicable to this. So Ind AS 37 is applicable to this part of contingencies, not to this part. Are you getting what I am saying? So AS29 was applicable to only those contingencies which will result in a liability, means outflow of resource. Means Ind AS 37 will be applicable to this part. And as per Ind AS 37, it may give rise to provision or either provision or contingent liability. Understood? Understood. And if you are creating provision, it means it is a liability. Provisions are liability only. So if you are creating provision, it will be shown in the liability side of balance sheet. It means it is a liability. It means it is a liability. Got this point? Correct. Have you understood? Means, can you say Ind AS 37 does not cover this decline in the value of asset? AS 29 was not applicable to this. Means provision for doubtful debt whatever you have created in CA Inter was not as per AS 29. Oh, acha. Understood what I am saying? Are you able to understand? Means all provision whatever you have created for asset was not as per AS 29. It means that provision for doubtful debt is actually not a liability because there is no outflow of resource. There is no outflow of resource. Are you able to understand? And therefore, this is known as, this decline in the value of asset is known as a loss. A loss is expense, and the name of that loss is impairment loss. We call it impairment loss. A new term in your life, a new term in your life, we call it impairment loss. However, there was one accounting standard AS 28, impairment of asset, which was not in CA Inter old scheme syllabus. Means in your CA Inter syllabus AS 28 was not there. Therefore, you have not never done AS 28, and therefore you don't know about impairment. So it is a new term for you. Impairment is a new term for you. So for these, whenever there is a contingencies and which arises due to decline in the value of asset, so we call it impairment loss. Impairment loss, correct? So can you say for this impairment loss, Ind AS 37 not applicable? Not applicable. It means now we need to understand which Ind AS is applicable. Which Ind AS is applicable, that we need to understand. Correct. So for that, respective Ind AS will be applicable. For example, for inventory, but in AS2 what you have done? As per AS2, the valuation of inventory will be done at cost price or NRV, whichever is lower. Why? To recognize such impairment loss. To recognize such impairment loss. So that loss is nothing but arises due to contingencies only, na? So that was covered under AS2, and now it is Ind AS2. Now it is Ind AS2. I will write down all Ind AS number. Okay, I will not write down AS number. So this is covered under Ind AS2. Got this point? Correct. For property, plant and equipment, you know PP, property, plant and equipment. You know intangible asset, IA means intangible asset. IA means intangible asset. Correct. If you don't know IA, write down full form, intangible asset. Don't ask me, so what do you mean by IA? I will say IA means IA, intangible asset. Correct. Or investment property, IP. IP means investment property. IP means investment property. Correct. Correct. There are three: PP, intangible asset, investment property. Correct. For that there was AS 28. Now it is Ind AS 36 coming soon in your life. Correct. So now AS 28 you have not done. So write down without understanding AS 36. Ind AS 36. AS 28 was not in your syllabus. AS 28 was not in your syllabus. चलेगा? Correct. So I will not be able to explain what was impairment of asset in your CA inter. So now AS 28 become Ind AS 36. Correct. Then receivable. Receivable. It can be trade receivable. It can be non-trade receivable. Any receivable. So we used to create provision for doubtful debt. We used to create provision for doubtful debt. Correct. As per which accounting standard? AS 9 is for revenue recognition, right? How 9? तो सोच के बोलो. AS 9, what was the title? Revenue recognition. It is revenue recognition. As per which AS? 28. 28 you have not done. If you have not done in CA, then I will never ask. I will ask only those questions which you have done. Because if which you have done, that also you don't know. How can I ask you which you have not done? AS 28 you have not done. And therefore I have written quietly. Here. Provision for doubtful debt. And believe me, in CA inter exam they used to ask question about provision for doubtful debt. And most of the students write on as per AS 29, 0 marks. If you have written as per AS 29, 0 marks. अरे बोलना रे. Correct. So it was actually based on this contingencies. AS4. So provision for doubtful debt, whatever you have created in CA inter was based on contingencies, and that was AS4. Apply it, contingencies. Can you say if there is some doubtful debtor? So there is some expected loss or not? Expected loss. So expected loss. अरे बोलना रे. Correct. If it is probable and the amount can be estimated, then recognize such loss and provision for doubtful debt will be created. But if suppose that loss is not probable, then we can ignore the accounting treatment and we can only disclose the fact, but not as contingent liability. Only disclose the fact. However, for debtor, if there is a doubtful debtor, always we create provision. If there is a doubtful debtor, always we create provision. However, I will say if there is a good debtor also, now there is some chance of loss, we should create provision. We should create provision which will understand under Ind AS. So for good debtor also we create some provision, but the amount of provision will be less. Understood? In your banking company, yaad karo banking company, because you have done banking company, I can relate. Whether you used to create provision for standard asset. Yes, standard asset means what? Good or bad? Good debtor means performing asset. So for performing asset, you have also created what? Provision on that. So same thing is applied under Ind AS. So therefore, if there is a debtor and it become doubtful debtor, always we create provision. Always we create provision, but not as per AS 29, but as per AS4. I am just giving you this point so that you can also understand accounting standard also. However, not required from examination point of view for CA final is concerned, as per CA final is concerned. Now coming to next question. If I am saying we need to create provision for doubtful debt. My question to you all, provision means liability. Whether provision for doubtful debt is a correct term. Now already we understood provision is a liability. But can I say this is decline in the value of asset is only an adjustment to the asset? It is not a liability. So should we use that term provision for doubtful debt? Provision for doubtful debt is a correct term. Because if I am saying provision is liability, so provision for doubtful debt is not a liability. So can I say provision for doubtful debt is not a correct term? And therefore under Ind AS, will not call it provision for doubtful debt. We'll call it impairment loss, or we'll call it allowance for bad and doubtful debt. Allowance for bad and doubtful debt. So we'll not use from today onward. You'll never say what? Provision for doubtful debt. You'll call it impairment loss, or you'll call it what? Allowance for bad and doubtful debt. Understood? So provision now in CA final we never call it provision for doubtful debt because provisions are liability, and this impairment loss will not create any liability. Understood? So this receivable impairment loss is calculated as per Ind AS 109 coming soon. Coming soon. Only this much, not more than this. ज़्यादा बोलूंगा accident हो जाएगा. I think this much तो you have understood. Correct? Correct. Write down for receivable. Don't use provision for doubtful debtor. Don't use the word provision for doubtful debtor. Use allowance for bad and doubtful debtor. Understood? Now we are in a position to start India studies. Now India's 37 will become easy. Now India's 37 will become easy. So first though I make you up to CA enter. Now once you have understood CA enter, then only we can understand CA final now. Otherwise it will be difficult for me and as well as difficult for you. Correct. Means any chapter which is totally new to you, it becomes very easy for me to explain. But any chapter which is not new to you, it requires some filtration. So I have done the filtration part. But before going to India 37, I would like to ask one question, whether you have understood or not understood. Can I ask one question? Are you ready? Are you ready? Correct. Apply your common sense once again. Now, have you heard about one term, provision for depreciation? Provision for depreciation. Correct. My question to you all, provision for depreciation, think and say, huh? Will come in first part or second part? Means it will come in first part or second part? First part or second part? How many is saying first part? How many is saying second part? How many is saying कहीं भी लगा दो sir? Understood? Still doubt is there. Still doubt is there, huh? Are you getting what I am saying? It means doubt will come when you think. Will not think, doubt will not come. Means if doubt is coming, so from my point of view, it means you are understanding. And doubt is not coming, means you are not understanding, you are doing, only you are following what is written. If doubt comes now, it means higher chance of becoming C. Doubt is not coming, I will say it means only you are following what is written. It may be happen that you are not understanding, only you are reading what is given in the book. So doubt should come. And doubt is coming, it should be clear, it should be cleared as soon as possible. Whenever doubt is coming and I am not available, write down that doubt in a special notebook. This doubt need to be asked. Otherwise, you will forget your doubt also. See what was the doubt. Whenever doubt is coming, whenever you are doing revision, write down in a special notebook doubt number 1, doubt number 2, doubt number 3, and all doubt need to be asked from me only. Because I am your mentor right now. You have selected me. Got this point? Correct. If you are not asking doubt, it means one thing is clear, that you are not doing it. So every day in the morning, I will ask you first question, any doubt? And most of you will say, no, sir. It means you have not done revision. It means you are not doing revision. The doubt is coming means you are doing revision. Got this point? Now, first say me depreciation. Now, what is depreciation? I like to ask one question before I answer. You may give this answer or this answer. Chalo. But depreciation means decrease in the value of asset or increase in the value of asset. You are wrong. It is not decrease in the value of asset. It is not decrease in the value of asset. No, no. Up to now you are changing it now. It is not decrease in the value of asset. If you are saying depreciation is decrease in the value of asset, it means you don't know depreciation. Because an asset, whose value is appreciating, that also require depreciation. Means if suppose you purchase a machinery and the value of machinery is increasing, then also you need to charge what? Depreciation, because you are using the asset. So any asset whose value is increasing also require what? Depreciation. It means depreciation is not decreasing the value of asset. Depreciation means systematic allocation of the cost price of the asset during the useful life of the asset. That only you have done. Cost divided by useful life. That is allocation of cost price during the useful life of asset as per which concept? Conservatism. Whether you are applying conservatism. I mean, right now we are discussing conservatism now. Means depreciation you have not recognized because of conservatism. Depreciation is not because of conservatism. Means provision for depreciation will not come in this. Will not come in this. It is outside the scope of this discussion. Outside the scope of this discussion, depreciation is not due to conservatism. Whether you charge depreciation due to conservatism principle. This you know, but you can't apply this. You have the knowledge, but you are not able to apply it if this knowledge is of no use. Are you getting what I am saying? You know depreciation is not as per conservatism principle, because no one has said till now like that. So my question to you are, depreciation is recognized as an expense as per which concept? Matching concept. Who said? Matching concept. Out of you, one sound came from one corner. Matching. With so matching. So slow na. Confidence is not there. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. But confidence nahi hai. You don't have confidence on your answer. In exam or same thing will come. You know the answer, but you are not confident about your answer. You will not write. Exam same situation will come. 3 hours. You know the answer, but you are not confident about your answer. You will skip it. Once you skip, you can't come back again. Same thing happen in exam hall. And confidence will come only when you are conceptually clear. Got this point? The matching concept. This all concept you have done where? In which syllabus? CA Foundation, CA Inter. Foundation. In foundation, there was in chapter number 1, unit number 2. Chapter number 1, unit number 2. All the teacher will skip that, or will take a very few hours for that chapter. Theoretical chapter कौन पढ़ता रे? Correct now. Means when I used to do CA Foundation, when I used to teach CA Foundation, I used to take 6 hours for that chapter, and therefore no one want to study CA Foundation from me. 6 hours. I used to give 6 hours to that chapter because I know the importance of that chapter in CA's life. Therefore, that much hour is required. पर बताओ CA Foundation के बच्चों को that much if I'll give, they will say bye bye. So I understood they don't want to learn from me. So I shifted from CA Foundation to CA Final, because you can understand my emotions. You can understand my emotions. So of course, from examination point of view, it was not required. But to become CA, it was required or not? Matching concept. Now, who will define matching concept? Who will define matching concept? Believe me, if you are not answering, don't feel demotivated. I am only asking this question to motivate you. Don't repeat whatever you have done in CA Foundation and CA Inter. If you are repeating that, then multiple attempt will come. Do you want to give multiple attempt? Do you want to give multiple attempt? No, nah. First attempt, only one attempt. Who will define matching concept? Arey bhai, that is dual aspect concept. Every debit has a corresponding credit. That is dual aspect concept. That is not matching concept. अब बताओ, if suppose you become, of course you will become CA. Sorry, suppose नहीं लगाना चाहिए. Of course you will become CA. CA final student means you are CA. Correct. Only a formality is left to write down the exam. So you will become CA. After CA, if I am asking this question and you are giving this answer, what impression you are creating? I will say how you passed. Yes or no? Don't feel bad right now. But my question, how you will pass? Who has given you marks? And how you become CA? That will be one question. Am I right or not? Means your value in the market will decrease automatically. Dual aspect concept is something different. Matching concept is something different. Anyone who want to define matching concept? One of the very important concept of the life. Entire SOPL is prepared based on matching concept, and we don't know matching. We know journal entries, but we don't know matching concept. Anyone who will try? Matching, I will say, expenses should match income. All the expenses which are recognized should be recognized only when only when it will generate some income in that particular accounting period. Means expenses should match the income whatever has been recognized for that particular accounting period, and therefore depreciation is accounted in that year in which year you have used that asset, and the benefit is derived from that asset. Means when you are using the asset, suppose I am using this projector, I will generate some income or not. So to generate that income, I have used this projector. So it should be allocated, the cost should be allocated during the useful life of the asset as per which concept? Matching concept. It means depreciation is not due to conservatism, depreciation is not due to matching concept. ठीक है, so not required for CA finance syllabus but required for a chartered accountant. ठीक है ना. Once again I will say 10 days I will be very slow. Once the 10 days 11 day will come, you will change a different Chiranjeev Jain. Means then I will start. I'm just giving time, adapt as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Correct. It means, can I say depreciation will not come here as well as here, because depreciation is not due to contingencies. Depreciation is not decrease in the value of asset. Correct. It means, can I say provision for depreciation the maha bakwas term. चलो provision for doubtful debt चलेगा because it is due to contingency and we are providing expenses, therefore we sometimes call it provision for doubtful debt चलेगा. But then also it was incorrect term. The correct term was impairment loss. In Ind AS will use impairment loss or allowance for bad and doubtful debt. But provision for depreciation, how provision came? When I say provision means conservatism and depreciation is not because of conservatism, how can we use the term provision for depreciation? We have never understood. Means I have never understood. But can I say ICI in the study material also use provision for depreciation? Means those who are drafting the book, they are also not chartered accountant. We should blame them. Am I right or not? Provision for depreciation is maha bakwas term. Any CA will never use provision for depreciation. Acha, you have done article sheet or you are doing article sheet. Have you prepared any time balance sheet in your office? In balance sheet, whether you have charged depreciation, so you use the term provision for depreciation or you use some different term, accumulated depreciation. Why? Because your CA, your principal knows the fact that provision for depreciation is not a correct term. We use the term what? Accumulated depreciation. So from now onward, never use what? Even though ICI is using, we'll say chalega, Godfather, na. We'll say, will not say publicly. Dekho, we are in house, huh? You are also you are also the product of ICI. I am also the product of ICI. We can discuss, but not outside. Can we discuss this thing to engineer student? Yeah, our ICI study matter is not correct. That is not correct. Am I right or not? We have understood now. We respect our Godfather. Am I right or not? And we are born to do mistakes. We human beings are born to do mistakes. Now they have also done mistake. चलेगा, माफ करो, माफ कर दिया. But provision for depreciation is not a correct term. Write on this one note because this note is required for your understanding. Write on provision for depreciation. Write down. Provision for depreciation is not a correct term as as depreciation is recognized due to matching concept. As depreciation is recognized due to matching concept. Correct term is accumulated depreciation. Accumulated depreciation. Understood? Chalo. So to start Ind AS, intentionally I have started with contingencies. However, this contingencies word is not defined under Ind AS. Has not been defined under Ind AS. Correct? So don't write contingencies as per Ind AS. Huh? They will not ask this question in exam. But don't say this contingencies as per Ind AS. This is as per AS4. So I have defined contingencies as per AS4. Not as per Ind AS. Ind AS 37 is silent about contingencies definition. Got this fine? Yes, sir. Now let us come to Ind AS. Ind AS 37. And now whatever I will say, you will be able to understand. And you feel that you are understanding each and every point. Can we start? So of course there are three terms: provision, contingent liability and contingent asset. First we'll do the discussion about meaning. So what do you mean by provisions? Provision means what? Bolo. Provision is a liability. Provision is a liability. It is a liability. So provisions are liability of uncertain amount or timing. Either amount means payment amount is not known, yet timing of payment is not known. You know what to pay, what amount to pay, but when to pay you don't know. That is also provision. So provisions are liabilities of uncertain timing or amount. A very simple definition. Definition over. Correct. It means one thing is clear, that all provisions are liabilities, but all liabilities are not provisions. All provisions are liabilities, but all liabilities are not provisions. It means to understand definition of provision, we should understand the definition of liability. Because if you don't know liability, how can you define provision? So now what is liability? Bolo. Liability means what? Liability means obligation to pay. Correct? Very, I will say, very narrow definition. Let us understand the correct definition of liability for the first time. Correct? So liability means what? We have understood provisions are liability of uncertain amount or timing. Of uncertain amount or timing. So what do you mean by liability? Liability means present obligation. Present obligation means all obligations are not liability. All obligations are not liability. Present obligation arising from which event? Past event. Of course, we are discussing about past event. We are not discussing about future event. Correct now. So one thing we have understood, that all obligations are not liabilities. Only which obligation? Present obligations are liability. So present obligation arising from past event. Now, of course, one question will arise. So what do you mean by present obligation? Will you leave me if I don't define present obligation? You will not leave me now. So you are not supposed to leave me till you understand everything. Correct? अभी CA इंटर में होता तो you would have never asked what is present obligation. Am I right or not? Am I right or not? So if I say present obligation, you have not understood. Have you understood? Have you understood what is present obligation? Same definition is given in AS 29 also. Present obligation means, in simple word, obligations are probable on reporting date. Obligations are probable on reporting date. It means obligation are probable. Are probable. Probable means chances are more than 50%. Chances are more than 50%. It means, can I say, if the chances of occurrence of loss is more than chances of non-occurrence of loss, it means, can I say, obligation is probable. Obligations is probable. Correct. So what Ind AS 37 says, that a past event is deemed to give rise to present obligation if it is probable, that is more likely than not. More likely than not means chances of occurrence is more than chances of non-occurrence. Chances of occurrence is more than chances of non-occurrence. Simple word, chances are more than 50%. Correct. Present obligation, you have understood. One thing is clear, that all obligations are not liability. So only present obligation arising from past event, the settlement of which is expected, and settlement will be done in future. Settlement will be done in future. The settlement of which is expected to result in a outflow of resource from the entity, outflow of resource from the entity. So of course it will result in outflow of resource. Resource means either cash or any other asset, either cash or any other asset. So it can be any asset, it can be any asset. Understood? Correct. This become liability. Abhi we have done definition of liability. Can you repeat with me? Liabilities are present obligation arising from past event, the settlement of which is expected to result in outflow of resource from entity. Now I'll give you some examples. You will say me whether it is a liability or it is not a liability. Apply today's concept. Don't apply what you have done in CA inter, because inter accounting is going to change. Understood? And if you are giving me answer based on CA inter, I will say then to you are not following me. Then what is the use of coming in the class? What is the use of doing this definition? Definition you have understood or not? Can I take some example? Correct. But a debenture is a liability or it is not a liability? Debenture is a liability or not a liability? Huh? Acha, chalo, debentures are always redeemable only. Redeemable debenture. Very good. I appreciate this type of answer. This type of queries. Isa bolo redeemable debenture. I'm very much happy. Chalo, I will change my question. Redeemable debentures, liability or is not a liability? Liability, na? It is a liability. No doubt about this. Correct? No doubt. Correct. Equity share capital. Equity share capital. Not a liability. Not a liability. Pakka. Bolo yes, throw. Can I go to another example? Equity share capital not a liability. Redeemable preference share capital. Redeemable preference share capital. Liability. Redeemable preference share capital. Liability. Pakka, your answer is correct. Means you have understood. But in CA inter, redeemable preference share capital was shown under share capital or liability. Means whatever you have done in CA inter is going to change. Now redeemable preference share capital will be a liability in your CA final. Presentation part will discuss in some other chapter. Abhi I am just giving the definition of liability. Redeemable preference share capital 100% correct means one thing you have understood my emotions with this example. Redeemable preference share capital, there is a present obligation arising from past event. Past event was the issue of preference shares only, and there was a terms and condition to repay the entire amount within 5 years, within 10 years. Correct now. It means there was an outflow of resource. The second condition was also satisfied, and therefore it is a liability, not equity. Not equity. Got this point? But if I say irredeemable preferences, it is liability or equity? Equity. Equity is a wider term which will include all types of equity instrument. Correct? Understood. So irredeemable preferences is not a liability, that become equity. Understood? Correct? Yes, sir. So one thing we have understood, provisions are liability of uncertain amount of timing. And can I say because the timing or amount was uncertain, it requires measurement? It requires measurement. And if it cannot be measured, then we can't pass journal entry. And if you can't pass journal entry, we can't recognize provision. So it means it should be measurable. It should be measurable. So what they have written, which require measurement by substantial degree of estimation, which can be measured by substantial degree of estimation. Means either amount can be estimated or timing can be estimated, or both require estimation. Understood? Yes, sir. This become the proper definition of provision. Correct. Understood. Now, one thing we have understood, present obligation. Now, Ind AS says there are two type of obligation. Obligations are of two type. Obligation are of two type. Obligation arising from, of course, even though I am silent, obligation arising from past event only na. In this, we are not discussing about obligation arising from future event. So, obligation arising from past event are of two type. It can be either legal obligation or constructive obligation. A new term in your life. Constructive obligation. Constructive obligation, new term. Have you heard about this? Constructive obligation. अरे बोलो ना. because AS29 was silent regarding this. AS29 is silent about constructive obligation. Therefore, you have never heard it. But now Ind AS 37 says there are two type of obligations and both obligations are covered in this chapter. Means for both obligation, if it is present obligation arising from past event, provision is required. So what do you mean by legal obligation? Well, legal obligation arises due to contract or due to any legislation or any other act. Correct? Means it can be either due to contract or any other act. For example, if I am saying income tax is payable, so due to act it is payable, so it is a liability. Correct? If I am saying we have done one contract that I will teach you, you need to pay the amount. So you have an obligation to pay the amount due to contract. That become also legal obligation. That also become legal obligation. Understood? So legal obligation may arise due to contract or any other act. Any other act. Correct? But there are sometimes constructive obligation. Right now, suppose I have made one announcement. Now announcement is not a contract now. Whether announcement is a contract. What do you mean by contract? Offer and acceptance. Means I offer and you accept. Then it become contract and which is enforceable in the eyes of law. But if I made announcement, what is the announcement? Let me make one announcement that any student who have taken FR classes from me, correct, and have scored 90 or more than 90 marks in CA final FR exam conducted by ICI, I will refund 50% of fees. And this is the actual announcement. Huh? Actual announcement. 90 ठीक है ना कि कम करो. Your target was 90 only. अरे अब कम करो. What is this? First day only you said target is 90 now. How can we reduce the marks? Then target will change. 50,000. अरे this is the monetary loss for me. चलो, I will say 50%, 100% of it. Now okay. Whatever you have paid, 100% of this. Okay, now happy. Now happy. I have increased the reward. Whatever you will say, I will do. Correct? This is applicable to all students, whether you are my face-to-face, live or recorded. Understood? Understood? But in all last past batches, I have said 50%. For the first time, I am saying what? 100%. So, chalo theek hai. Whatever you will demand, I will pay. But you should demand, huh? Means you should score. Correct? So, what announcement I have made? See, any student who scored 90 or more than 90, correct, I will refund 100% of fee, excluding GST. Excluding GST, GST already have, I need to pay. Excluding GST, that is also understood point. That is also understood point. Okay. Now the question is that whether it is a contract. It is not a contract. Now should I create provision for this? Well, yes, because it is a constructive obligation. And can I say if you score, I have an obligation to pay or not? Can I deny that? Can I say if I deny, I know my goodwill will decrease in the market? What you will say? You will say negative about me na? Arey bakwas teacher tha. Yes or no? So I will never deny because I am also here to do business and I will always say yes if you scored and I want to refund that amount because if you score 90 marks, my goodwill only increase in the market because I will do what? Full advertisement. Your photo with my photo, correct na? So I will do as a promotional scheme. So that 10,000 is just nothing but is my promotional expense. If you think from business point of view, are you getting what I'm saying? So I will love to give you what? Refund. Because I want that you score what? 90 or more than 90 marks. Correct. So it means there is a constructive obligation or not because if you score, I have an obligation to settle that amount. It means what Ind AS 37 says that for constructive obligation, if there is a present obligation arising from past event, you need to create what? Provision. It means what they want to say. Let's say constructive obligation derive from entity's own action, not due to any contract, not due to any act. It is due to entity's own action. It may arise due to past practice. Means suppose in the past batches I have refunded the amount. So can I say you have a valid expectation that if you also score, can I say you will also get refund? Correct? or due to published policy. Suppose I have not made any announcement, but in my website it is mentioned. So you came to my class by observing that notice only. So that was already a published policy. So it means it will also create some constructive obligation or some specific statement, announcement I have made, that is also give rise to constructive obligation. So it may arise due to past practice, or due to published policies, or due to a specific statement which indicate that entity will accept the responsibility and create a valid expectation on the part of other party. Can you say once I have done announcement, you have some expectation from me or not? So it create a valid expectation on the part of other party. So it become a constructive obligation, and Ind AS 37 says that for all the constructive obligation, provision is required if the condition is satisfied. Understood. It means obligation are of two types: legal obligation and constructive obligation. Got this point? So what Ind AS 37 says that when to recognize provision. When to recognize provision means what? Recognize means what? Record. When to pass journal entry. Whenever I say recognize means record. Record means where? In the books of account. Books of account means journal and ledger. Journal ledger. Understood. To recognize means you are passing some journal entries. So when to pass journal entry for provision? When all the following conditions are satisfied. When all the following conditions are satisfied. How many conditions they have given? Three conditions. If all the following conditions are satisfied, recognize provision. First condition was there must be present obligation arising from past event. Obligation. Which obligation? It can be legal obligation. It can be constructive obligation. Second, outflow of resource which is required to settle the obligation is also probable. Is also probable. So outflow of resource is also probable. Outflow of resource is also probable. Probable means what? Chances are more than 50%. And reliable estimation can be made for either amount or the timing of obligation. Means estimation can be made. If you can't estimate, then how can you create provision? How can you pass the journal entry? So reliable estimation can be made. Now, what do you mean by reliable? Means how to do measurement. That is a second. That is other topic. So measurement will come once we do the definition. After definition. So what are three conditions? First condition is what? There must be present obligation arising from past events. Second, outflow of resource which is required to settle the obligation is also probable. Third, reliable estimation can be made. Correct. Now, if question is silent, always assume that estimation can be made, because we can estimate anything. From examination point of view, if question is silent about estimation, always assume that estimation can be made and create provision. We say yes, we require provision. So if question is silent about point number 3, always say yes, estimation can be made. Write down. If question is silent, assume estimation can be made. Understood? It means from exam point of view, this point number 1 and point number 2 are important. Means we need to focus on point number condition number 1 and condition number 2. Whenever a case study questions come, whether we need to create provision and whether we are not supposed to create provision. Correct. Now, when I say present obligation means obligation is probable, and second condition means outflow is probable. So both require probability. So when I am saying present obligation means obligation is probable, and second condition means outflow is probable. So both must be probable. If one is probable, other is not probable, then provision cannot be recognized. Correct. So when I am saying obligation is probable means what? When I am saying obligation is probable means what? Means chances of occurrence of that future event is more. Understood? Chances of occurrence is more. And if the chances is more, you are supposed to pay. Means if the outflow is also probable and you can't deny payment, you can't refuse payment, then it means outflow is also probable. Means settlement need to be done, then it means outflow is also probable, then provision is recognized. So both require probability. Understood? So first is what? Obligation is probable. Second is what? outflow is also probable. Got this point? Let me take one example. You'll say whether we should create provision or not. I'll take one example. Just try to understand. Just try to understand. Suppose you have an office and there are many accountants. In your office, there are many accountants. You are the owner of this company. Now what happened? Accountant will do all the accounting and legal works, all the legal formalities. Correct. Now what happened? There was some amendment in GST Act. And due to this amendment, staff required training. All the employees require training. Understood? Staff require training. So there was some amendment in the Act, past event. Now amendment is there. So now staff can do all the accounting work or legal work. Only they have the knowledge about the amendment. So they require training. Means in future you need to incur some training expenses. Yes or no? Now the question is, should we create provision for this? Should we create provision for this? Follow. We should create provision or we should not create provision? Yes or no? Follow. Understood this question? But whether obligation is probable? Okay, yes, there is a present obligation arising from past event. But whether outflow is probable? Outflow is probable. Follow. Whether outflow is probable. Can you say we can avoid such payment? Yes, we can avoid such payment. We can avoid such training. It is quite possible. Just try to understand. Staff training expenses. It is quite possible that we may retrench this employee and we can hire some new employee in place of that. Means we can avoid such payment or not. Training expense can be avoided or not. So here outflow is what? Not probable. Outflow is not probable, means there is a chances that entity may decide to appoint some new employee and they may replace this employee. Suppose use training required. So we are not supposed to take such training. We'll say that will appoint some new chartered accountant with such knowledge. Got this point? So that training can be avoided or not? Yes. It means outflow is not probable and therefore provision should not be recognized. It means, can I say here the outflow is dependent on future conduct of business? What entity will decide in future? So whenever outflow is dependent on future conduct of business, then provisions are not recognized. So what Ind AS 37 says that only those obligations which exist independently from entity's future conduct of business should be recognized as provision, otherwise do not recognize provision. Means any obligation which are dependent, don't write. If I am not writing, means it is already written. Correct now. So if I am not writing, means already written or I will only write. Got this man? Don't write anything which I am not writing. So what I am saying, any obligation which are dependent on future conduct of business should not be recognized as provision because outflow is not probable. Let me take one more example which you have done, similar example you have done in CA Inter. Now I hope you'll be able to understand that example because similar question was asked in CA Inter exam. Suppose there is one company, Air India, and that company has purchased one aeroplane for commercial use, for public transportation. Now as per National Aviation Act or any act, whenever you use any aeroplane for public transportation, this aeroplane require major inspection after every 3 years. and this inspection cost will be around 5 crore. Means it can be estimated. It can be estimated. Means once you purchase one aeroplane, can you say there is one expected expenses on completion of 3 years, and you need to perform inspection because there is a legal obligation. So there is a present obligation arising from past event. Should we create provision? Yes or no? Why no? Because in future what we can do? We can sail the aeroplane. It is quite possible ki yes, as per legal obligation that expenditure is required, but it is required only when we use it. We can sail it before 3 years. It means it can be avoided or not. Means can I say yeah, obligation is dependent on future conduct of business, therefore outflow is not probable and therefore provision is not recognized. However, it may require disclosure as contingent liability. So I am right now not discussing about contingent liability. Contingent liability is pending from my point of view. Understood? Correct. Have you understood this point? I think this example you have done in CA Inter not. You have done this question. I think you have done, you have forgotten because same question was asked in one of the CA Inter exam. So I think you have done, you might have forgotten. Understood. So can I say now once you know the concept, any question you can answer? Any question you can answer or not? Can I say only facts and circumstances will change, answer will remain same. So I can create 1000 questions. Whether it is possible, take 1000 questions in class. So what is important? Concept is important, question is important. So once you know the concept, you can answer any question. So I should focus on concept or question? Concept now. So we'll focus on concept. Question, you ask any question. I see ask any question, we'll answer it. Got this point? Yes, sir. Hello. I think you have understood this also. Come to what is written. Point number D. Only those obligations which exist independently from entity's future conduct of business should be recognized. Should be recognized. Understood? I hope you have understood. In other words, obligations which are dependent on future conduct of business should not be recognized as provision because outflow of resource is not probable. Understood? Correct. Now, if suppose questions come in exam and you have written yes, provision is not required, but you have not mentioned this para, whether your answer is best answer. So if you are giving answer without explanation, no one will give marks. They will give marks, but less than 50%. They will give marks means out of 5 they will give one half, one and half like this. So you are not getting marks for correct answer, you are getting marks for best answer. So it means you need to also write down this para. Write down this para. Got this point? Then your answer will become best answer. Chalega. We'll take 10-minute break. After break, we'll do the balance part. Everyone came? Sure. Can we start once again, everyone? अच्छा, बताओ. Speed is okay? अभी speed is slow only, okay? I will increase the speed. Please slowly you when you have understood my teaching style, then at higher speed also you will be able to understand. Okay? Now, I think whatever we have done till now you have understood. The last point, any doubt? Got this point? So there are three conditions. All the three conditions need to be satisfied. If any one condition is not satisfied, will not recognize provision. Then in that case, it is quite possible that we may require disclosure of contingent liability. But till now, we have not done the meaning of contingent liability. Correct? Yes, sir. Now, everyone, we there is one clarification given in Ind AS 37. What is that clarification? That always obligation involve other party. Now the question is that for creation of provision, should we know the identification of other party? Means should we know the name, address, identification of that other party? So what India 37 says that even though you don't know the identification of other party, provision need to be recognized. Correct. So one clarification is given, understood point. The provision creation does not require identification of that other party. So all obligation involve other party. It is not essential to know the identification of other party for recognition of provision. Chalega? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One more clarification has been given about legal obligation. Now, legal obligation may arise due to act. Now, the question is that if the act is not enacted but is going to be enacted, should we recognize provision? Act is not yet enacted. You know about enactment. Whenever an act, this bill has been passed and signed by the president and notified in the official gazette of India, then act will be enacted. Correct. From that date, act will become effective in India. Okay. So it is quite possible some act is not enacted but going to be enacted. Should we create provision? So what Ind AS want to say? Just try to understand. Illegal obligation arises only when legislation are enacted. Means act is enacted on which date? On or before reporting date, on or before reporting date, or it is virtually certain. Now what do you mean by virtually certain? Virtually certain means chances are more than 95%. Once again, new term in your life. So whenever I say virtually certain means chances are more than 95%. Probable means what? Chances are more than 50%. Virtually certain means what? Chances are more than 95%. Write down, chances are more than 95%. Correct. So it is virtually certain by the end of reporting period that it will be shortly enacted. So if the act is not enacted, but it is virtually certain that it will be enacted, then also what required? Provision is required. Let me explain this point because I'm expecting one question on this. Till now they have not asked, but can be asked in exam and at any point of time. Let me explain this with one example. Suppose this is 31st March. This is the next year. Correct now. Now, during the past year, entity has created lot of pollution. Lot of pollution, air pollution, water pollution, etc., etc., etc. Now, so case 1, situation 1 you can add on. Situation 1, act for cleaning the environment is already enacted. This is the first situation. Already enacted means on or before 31st March. So should we create provision for this? Yes. No doubt we should create provision and say yes, provision is required. Provision is required. Understood? Correct. Second situation. Situation number 2. The act is not enacted on 31st March, but it is virtually certain. VC means what? Virtually certain. It is virtually certain that act will be enacted. Means on 31st March it was virtually certain. On 31st March it is virtually certain that it will be enacted. Understood? But the provision is required, not required? Required. That too you have understood. If provision is required. But of course one doubt will come, sir, how will understand it is virtually certain? Correct now. So virtually certain, this is not defined. Means can I say, for this we need to apply judgment. Whenever nothing is defined, we need to apply our own judgment. Judgment. Understood? So don't worry, in exam they will give some indication, from that you will be able to understand whether it is virtually certain or not virtually certain. Correct. But practically I am just giving one scenario. So whenever an act is enacted, so initially what happened, bill will be passed in both the houses. There are two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Once the bill has been passed in both the houses, then what will be done? President will sign it. But in India, president is what? Formality. That sign is formality or not? If the bill has been passed, so can you say it is 100% sure the act will be enacted? So only president sign is a mere formality. So suppose before 31st March, bill has been passed in both the houses. Means even though it is not enacted, it is virtually certain that it will be enacted or not. Yes. So if that situation is there and that circumstance is given, it is virtually certain that it will be enacted. It will be enacted. Understood? Correct. However, in exam question, they will give some indication, from there you will be able to understand whether it is virtually certain or it is not virtually certain. But this point, or it is quite possible they will use the term virtual certainty. Correct? Yes, sir. So I hope you have understood. Situation number 3. Situation number 3. Act is neither enacted nor virtually certain that it will be enacted. However, there is a published policy of entity for cleaning the environment. Understood? There is a published policy given by entity for cleaning up the environment. But the provision is required or not required? Required. Why? Constructive obligation. So it means, can I say this become a constructive obligation? This become a constructive obligation. Now you say, if in exam you say provision is required, but you have not used the word constructive obligation, whether they will give marks. So don't expect full marks. Then they will decide how much marks will be given. And there is no rule of giving marks. It can be half marks, it can be 1 mark, whatever. Understood? Yes, sir. But provision is required. Provision is required. Yes, last situation. If I will say there is no means neither situation 1 nor situation 2 nor situation 3, then provision is not required. That become last situation. If all the three situations are not there, then will not create provision. That is understood point. That is understood point. Understood. Got this point. So this is one of the expected question. This type of question can be asked in exam at CA final level. At CA final level. Understood. Correct. So you have understood about legal obligation also. So we have understood a definition and the recognition principle of provision. Now let us come to contingent liability. Let us come to contingent liability. Correct. Any doubt in provision till now? Any doubt in provision? No doubt. Now let us come to contingent liability. Now can you say we have understood provisions and we have understood we were discussing about obligation. Which obligation? Arising from past event, which can be either legal or constructive obligation, that we have understood. Now as per Ind AS 37, this obligation are of three types. I am not discussing about legal and that too you have understood. It can be legal or constructive obligation. Now both legal and constructive obligation for accounting purpose are of three types. One is present obligation, that too we have understood. Present obligation. Second is known as possible obligation. And third is known as remote obligation. Remote obligation. Understood? Present, possible and remote. Present means what? Chances are more than 50%. Correct. Chances are more than 50%. Remote means what? Very less chances. Insignificant chances. Means as per percentage we can say the chances are less than 5%. Less than 5%. As per percentage we can say chances are very remote. It is remote chances. Insignificant chances. Chances are there but very insignificant chances. Correct. And possible means in between this, means less than what? 50%, but more than what? 5%, more than 5%. Got this? I hope you have understood in percentage form. Correct. Normally, whenever it is present obligation, it means we say the obligations are probable. We call it obligations are probable. Obligations are probable. When it is possible, we say not probable. Not probable. Understood? Correct. So what Ind AS 37 says that whenever there is a remote obligation, so as per materiality concept, can you say we should ignore the effect? Because very remote chances. What do you mean by materiality concept? Well, what do you mean by, you know that term materiality concept? So what do you mean by that? Well, now I am not asking the definition of material. I am asking what do you mean by materiality concept? Understood that any information which is material for the user of financial statement for the decision making become material. But what do you mean by materiality concept? See, any information which are material require disclosure. Any information which are not material does not require any disclosure. Understood? This is the meaning of materiality concept. Got this point? Correct. Means can you say Ind AS applies or AS applies only to material item? Ind AS and AS do not apply to immaterial item because we do not have so much time now to think about immaterial information which is not important for the user. Ignore that. Which is not important for user of financial statement for their decision making. Ignore that. So can you say in this case ignore what? Accounting treatment. Means no accounting treatment. No accounting treatment. Understood? Have you understood this point? Yes, sir. Now, probable means chances are more than 50%. But what you will do? What you will do? Recognize provision. Everyone is wrong. Everyone is wrong. If it is a present obligation, there are two more conditions. If you are saying recognize provision, till now you are in C enter. Till now you are in C enter. Now I said if there is a present obligation, you are saying recognize provision. Means till now you have not understood whatever I have discussed. Abhi there are two more conditions now. What is the second condition? Outflow. Outflow of resource. Outflow of resource. And what is the third condition? Estimation. Reliable estimation. Correct. So can I say if there is a present obligation arising from past event and outflow of resource is probable and reliable estimation can be made, it means we should recognize what? Provision. So in this case, recognize provision. Recognize provision. Got this point? Correct. Understood. Means can I say in this way, if there is a present obligation arising from past event but outflow of resource is not probable or reliable estimation cannot be made, do not recognize provision. Then in that case, what Ind AS says, disclose what? Contingent liability. Means if either this is not satisfied or this is not satisfied or both are not satisfied. Correct now. In that situation, what our Ind AS says, disclose contingent liability. Disclose contingent liability. Are you getting what I am saying? Disclose contingent liability. Understood? Correct. This also you have understood. And if there is a possible obligation, always disclose what? Contingent liability. If there is a possible obligation arising from past event, means obligation is not probable, then always disclose what? Contingent liability. Always disclose contingent liability. Understood? Have you understood? So can you see if you have understood this flow chart, you can define contingent liability. You can define contingent liability. So can you give me one definition of contingent liability? So can we say in this way, contingent liabilities are present obligation arising from past event which is not recognized. Why? Because either outflow of resource is not probable or reliable estimation cannot be made. Understood? Correct? Understood? Correct. Or it is a possible obligation arising from past event, or it is a possible obligation arising from past event. This is the definition of contingent. Here there is no rectification required. If you have understood, you can write down in your own words in exam. You can write down in your own word, but meaning should remain same. Correct. So can you repeat with me? Contingent liabilities are present obligation arising from past event which is not recognized. Why? Because either outflow of resource is not probable or reliable estimation cannot be made, or it is a possible obligation arising from past event. Understood? This much if you write, you will get marks. Correct? Let's see what the definition says. Let's see. Definition क्या दिया? Contingent liability. Next point. Correct. The contingent liabilities are present obligation from past event which cannot be recognized. Which cannot be recognized as provision. Na? Which cannot be recognized. Recognized means provision. Because either outflow of resource to settle the obligation is not probable, or reliable estimation cannot be made, or possible obligation arising from past event. If you write on this much, you will get the marks. But after this, there is something. Read it. Correct. Now, possible obligation arising from past event, the existence of which will be confirmed only by occurrence or non-occurrence of uncertain future event which is not within the control of entity. If you want to add this much, also add. So it is a possible obligation arising from past event, the existence of which will be confirmed only by occurrence or non-occurrence of uncertain future event which is not within the control of entity. याद कर लो. However, if you write down this much, because the keyword is present obligation and possible obligation. Correct. One thing we have understood, that contingent liability cannot be recognized. It requires only disclosure, and we disclose where? Notes to account. So all disclosure we give in notes to account, and notes to account is a part of financial statement. So if I say disclose in financial statement, you will disclose in balance sheet, SOPL, statement of cash flow, in notes to account. So that is understood, notes to account. So Ind AS will not say disclose in notes. Always disclose in financial statement, but in financial statement where we disclose? Notes to account. So what they have written? It is not recognized but required disclosure in financial statement. Financial statement is where? In notes to account. Notes to financial statement. Unless outflow of resource is removed. Like the outflow of resource is removed, then do not disclose what? Contingent liability also. If outflow is removed, once again materiality concept will come into act and will not disclose the contingent liability also. You will disclose only when outflow is probable or not probable. But if it is remote, do not disclose. Do not disclose. Understood? Correct? Yes, sir. Have you understood? If you have understood this much, can you answer this summary? Come to page number 69. One summary is given. Other answer is given, remark is given, but now you will be able to answer. Whenever question will come about provision and contingent liability, first identify obligation, whether it is probable or not probable, then identify outflow resource, then identify estimation. If question is silent, always assume estimation can be made. Correct. If question is silent, now suppose first obligation is present, outflow is probable, and amount can be estimated, means what? Provision. Obligation is present, outflow is not probable, whether estimation can be made or not made, then what? Means contingent liability require disclosure even though estimation can't be made. Got this point? Yes, sir. Have you understood this point? Correct. Now obligation is present, outflow is remote. Outflow is remote. So any treatment? No treatment. No treatment. Got this point? Then obligation is possible. Possible obligation. Correct. Outflow is probable. Amount can be made or not made. Then contingent liability. Contingent liability. Correct. Then obligation is probable. Possible. Obligation is possible. Outflow is not probable. Amount may or may not be estimated. Then what? Contingent liability. Correct. Obligation is possible, but amount is remote. Outflow is remote. Then what? No treatment. Outflow become remote, means if obligation is remote, yeah, outflow is remote. No treatment. No treatment. Correct. And if the obligation is remote, no treatment. Understood? I hope you have understood. So any question require this only. If they ask only this much, whether it is a provision or contingent liability, so only you need to first find out obligation is there or not. If yes, whether it is a present obligation or possible obligation, then outflow is probable or not probable, amount can be estimated or non-estimated. If you know all these things, you can answer or not. You can answer. Correct? Yes, sir. So this also you have understood. There is one special point given for contingent liability. What they have given, just try to understand. When an entity is jointly, when entities jointly and severally liable. What do you mean by jointly and severally liable? What do you mean by jointly and severally liable? I think in partnership act you have done that. Means any partners are jointly are severally liable for any obligation. Means if other partner is not paying, then the other means one of the partner need to pay the amount. I think in partnership act you have done this point, jointly and severally liable, I hope. So if an entity is jointly and severally liable for an obligation, the part of the obligation that is expected to be made by other party will be treated as contingent liability of the entity. Means suppose there is a one partnership firm, correct, as a, and A limited and B limited are partner. A limited and B limited are partner. So now the Ind AS is applicable because these are company. So company can be partner or not. Company can be partner in a partnership firm. Correct? Yes, sir. Both are partner and they have an obligation to pay rupees 10 lakh. Understood? Now ratio is what? 20% and 80%. Their profit sharing ratio is 20-80. So what is the liability of A limited? Liability means 2 lakh and B limited how much? 8 lakh. But can you say for A limited what will be the contingent liability? 8 lakh. Now their own liability is what? 2 lakh. And how much B should pay? 8 lakh. But if B will not pay, who is supposed to pay? A limited. Understood? So A limited contingent liability is how much? 8 lakh. And B limited contingent liability is how much? 2 lakh. Understood? However, this type of question till now not asked, but can be asked. Can be asked. So they have just given one clarification for the case, for this particular case. For other party liability, the entity need to create a contingent liability when they are jointly and severally liable. Understood? Yes, sir. Done? Simple? Yes, sir. Now coming to the last point for today, contingent asset. Contingent asset. It will not require much time. Contingent asset you have understood, it will not be recognized. Only disclosure is required. So what is contingent asset? It is for liability, there are three terms: liability, provision, contingent liability. However, provision is also liability. Means actually there are two terms: liability and contingent liability. But they have given one more importance by giving what? A special name for uncertain liability, provision. But provision is also liability now. Means for liability I can say there is one word, liability, and contingent liability. And provisions are liability only. So for asset there are two terms: asset and contingent asset. Assets and contingent asset. So asset require recognition and contingent asset does not require recognition. So what is contingent asset? That we need to understand. So contingent asset a possible asset. Contingent asset a possible asset. Possible asset means possible inflow. There was outflow, so here it is inflow. We are discussing about inflow now. Correct. So contingent asset are possible asset arising from past event, the existence of which will be confirmed by occurrence or non-occurrence of uncertain future event which is not within the control of entity. This same to same what is given for possible obligation. We can, this is same. Correct. Means simple word, if you write down contingent asset, a possible asset arising from past event. Possible asset arising from past event. Correct. Understood. Correct. It means, can I say here we need to think about inflow, whether inflow is probable or not probable. Whether inflow is probable or not probable. Got this point? There we discuss about outflow. Outflow is probable or not probable. So here we discuss about inflow is probable or not probable. Are you able to understand what I am saying? Correct. My question to you before I go to inflow, let me understand whether you have understood outflow or not. Means when I say outflow, just try to understand. When I say outflow is certain, then what? Then what? Then liability. Then so it is a pure liability now. Correct. Then it is a liability. When I say outflow is probable, then what? Means there is a present obligation. That condition is satisfied. There is a present obligation. Now we are discussing only about outflow. Are you getting what I am saying? If it is not a present obligation, then how can we recognize provision? The first condition is satisfied. I am not discussing about only outflow. If I am saying outflow is probable, then what? Provision. But provision is also a liability, na? Provision is also a liability. Provision is also a liability. Am I right or not? Correct. Yes, sir. Now, if the outflow is not probable, then contingent liability, and outflow is remote, then no treatment. I hope this much to you understood. No treatment. This much you understood, na? Correct. This much you understood. Correct. Now, if I say in this way, the outflow is virtually certain, a new term. Virtually certain. This is not given in outflow. But suppose if I say outflow is virtually certain means more than but less than 100%, means not certain. But what you will do? Provision only. Provision na. It was not required. It was not required na. Means a specific explanation of virtual certainty it was not required. Means if outflow is virtually certain, you recognize provision, and provision is liability. Means I can say na it is nothing but provision. So if this is a liability, this is liability, this will be also liability only. But it requires estimation. Therefore, it become what? It requires estimation. It become what? Provision. Whenever liability require estimation, so that liability is known as what? Provision. So whenever liability require estimation, liability is named as what? Provision. Understood? So here it is liability only. Sorry. Understood? Have you understood this much? Now let us come to inflow. Now apply a common sense. Inflow. The inflow, if it is certain, then what? Then asset only. Then so it is an asset. Then no discussion required. It is not a contingent asset now. If I am saying inflow is certain, then it is an asset or contingent asset. Then recognize it. Recognize respective income and respective asset. Got this point? If I am saying inflow is probable, then what you will do? Probable, then what? Then what? Now conservatism principle. Can I say we are strict for what? Outflow. We are very much strict for inflow. Now conservatism principle. Do not anticipate any expected income. Means do not recognize it. Means it will be an asset or contingent asset. Contingent asset. It will become contingent asset. Understood this point? Have you understood this point? And if I say not probable, then or remote, then well, no treatment. Here they have said no treatment. No treatment. Understood? Are you able to understand what I am saying? Correct? So what they are saying, if inflow is probable, then recognize contingent asset. अरे बोलना रे हट ना लायक recognize. How can we recognize contingent asset? If it is a contingent asset, then disclose contingent asset. Think by MCQ question. MCQ question मर जाओगे. पहला ऑप्शन recognize contingent asset. मजा आ रहा है. सजा हो जाएगा ना. Will recognize or disclose? Disclose contingent asset. Are you getting what I am saying? Correct. So when I am saying contingent asset require disclosure, no recognition. Asset require what? Recognition. Contingent asset do not require recognition. That require disclosure. Got this point? And if it is not probable, then? And if it is remote, then? But thoda difference हुआ ना? Difference here and here. Now they have said if inflow is virtually certain, then what? Virtually certain, then what? Virtually certain means inflow is the chances are more than 95%. Then what? Asset or contingent asset? But बोला no. Now asset. बोला virtually certain ना. यहाँ पे भी तो liability किया था. Here also we have done liability, not contingent liability. Are you able to understand? Means differences started from here. Differences started from here. Are you getting what I am saying? Well, if inflow is virtually certain, then it is an asset. It is not a contingent asset, and recognize such asset and respective income. And I will just give you one example. Ki from bachpan se you are recognizing such income. Can I take one example? From bachpan se you are passing that journal entry, but nobody has informed you from as per the line of accounting standard. Now, what journal entry you have done for credit sales? What journal entry you have done for credit sales? बचपन में क्या ना debtor account debit to sales. But the debtor is an asset or liability? Asset, correct? Now my question to you, this is a credit sales. So let me ask you whether inflow is certain or inflow is uncertain. But the credit sales means you have done sale to some customer. But whether the collection is certain or it is uncertain. Collection is certain. Arey why? Collection is certain. Just right. Collection is certain. You will say no. You will say no, na. You can't say certain. Now next question. Whether collection is uncertain. That is also no. Because can you see you have sold to a known customer, but known customer can also become bad customer, na. Are we able to understand? So in both cases, collection is neither certain nor uncertain, but it is virtually certain. Virtually certain. Chances are that we can recover the collection more than 95%. Therefore, you have done credit sales. Otherwise, you will never do credit sales. Yes or no? So you can't say it is 100% certain. You can't say it is uncertain, but it is virtually certain. It means inflow is virtually certain. And bachpan say we are passing this journal entry or not. Bachpan se we are passing this journal entry. It means if suppose any inflow which is virtually certain, we recognize the asset and respective income. Respective income is sales is what? Respective income na? Asset and respective income. Understood? So I have given the best example so that you can now convince with this particular para. You are convinced with this particular para. Understood? Conceptual studies. Conceptual learning. So this is conceptual learning. So I am taking my time in Ind AS 37. Believe me, I can complete this Ind AS 37 in in less than 3 hours also. But I will take one more extra day to only inform you that how to study. How to study. I can't do this much in some bigger chapter. Suppose I will start business combination chapter, correct now. So in that chapter, I will just start because I need to complete that past chapter. But when I will start business combination, that time you will be able to understand all my emotions. Whatever I will say, you will be able to understand. Correct? Now let us read and then I will leave. What is given? Recognition and disclosure. Inflows are virtually certain. What you will do? It shall be recognized as an asset, not treated as contingent asset. Understood? Okay. Inflows are probable. No asset is recognized. It is treated as what? Contingent asset. Required disclosure. Disclosure where? Notes to account. You know AS29 used to say disclose in the report of approving authority. What do you mean by report of approving authority? Is director's report. Whether director's report is a part of financial statement. No, it is a bakwas point. If you want to disclose, disclose in notes to account while disclosing director's report. And director's report is not a part of financial statement. Means AS and Ind AS is not applicable to director's report. So that was bakwas point. If you want to disclose, disclose where? In notes to account. So now it has been corrected under Ind AS. The disclosure need to be given in notes to financial statement. And if it is not probable or remote, not probable is it will include remote also, no treatment. Correct? This summary now you can understand because already I have explained. So today we have done only meaning and recognition part. Tomorrow we'll do measurement and then some special point. Ind AS 37 will come. Chalega? Okay. Thank you very much for today. We'll meet tomorrow. Till then, bye bye. Take care. Enjoy your remaining day. Bye bye. Acha, tomorrow class timing. Tomorrow will be class. First Sunday है ना. I don't want to give holiday in first Sunday. फिर rhythm टूट जाएगा. है ना? You want holiday? You don't ना. I also don't. ठीक है. But timing change होगा. तो आराम सो के आएंगे. You don't have office ना, you don't have office. Timing I can change. So tomorrow the class will be from 8, 3 hours, 3 hours. So 8 to 11, 8 to 11. चलेगा? Okay. And one more announcement is there. I just want to give that announcement. In the month of June, June में ना I will not be available for 7 days. I am informing you on prior basis so that you can plan your studies. So on that 7 days, either do some other subject or revise FR. That is your choice. Correct? So I think from 24th of June to 1st of July, yeah, 2nd of July, forgotten. Correct now. Means 7 days I will be not there in the last week of June. In the last week of June. So I have already informed you, huh? So plan your studies in that way. Okay. So if you want to start some other subject for that 7 days, plan that. Okay. The last week of June, 7 days I will not be available. Okay. Thank you very much.